Hey there, everybody. I hope that this finds all of you in pretty good condition. I've got a lot to talk about today. So, hopefully, if you're watching this before we do anything else, can you be an icon? Can you be a superhero? Can you help get this episode off the ground? Because it's going to be a big one, a big doozy. I'm Brandon. I'm here. I'm your host. I'm going to be leading you through a whole lot of cool stuff today. But before we do it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit whatever buttons are relevant to you and exist in your world. Get them out there and let people know your stuff. If you're watching this, I am in a super interesting situation. And me as a person that likes to watch live streams and all this bullshit, I always like it when something unpredictable happens. And this is one of those weeks because if you've ever felt isolated, if you've ever felt like the world was on your shoulders and then the world like just started crumbling around you. A little dramatic, but like Rachel Kahn has got severe migraines, isn't in the building. Kennedy Cooper also has got like severe aches and pains, not in the building. Our producer, Amy, is with Kennedy, like helping Kennedy get patched up. And so while we wait for our all-star panel, Lindsay Boylan, Melanie Dargo is in a call like right now, but we'll probably see her like later on. Kyle, Lindsay, like the whole gang will be here. But in the meantime, you get to hear me talk about a story from my day to day. I am really super pissed and infuriated. I deal with people all the time who, when I talk about like coalition building and like getting a group of people together to do something, not lame stuff, not politics, not like, oh, we're going to stand out here and hold out a sign, like normal human stuff, like a party. Holding a party is hard as hell when it's hard to like get human beings together and on the same page. I know people that won't step foot in a church. I know people that won't step foot in like a regular group of people in order to get like something fun together. I last week got together with some people at Coalition for the People's Agenda. They're like a voting rights and advocacy group. They do a lot of stuff like voter suppression, souls to the polls. They're like that older crowd, Joseph Lowry, Hosea Williams, all that stuff. And in order to like get them together with what we were doing, they had a crowd of like 200 people. And they were happy to co-run an event with us because this will blow your mind. They like didn't know how to make graphics and do social media and promote online. A lot of the time, strategically, when we talk about things that are messed up in the world, and when we talk about parks and communities, which is really what we're here to do, we think of that as something that's a huge insurmountable thing. But today, I want to talk about stories of people who like saw that their neighborhood was not like a good living space, not the kind of space that they want to hang out in and have fun times in. And they had to like work to improve what their living space is. Right now, I'm showing some videos from a walking tour of Lower Manhattan. Parts of Lower Manhattan are extremely livable walking spaces. I grew up in Atlanta, and parts of it were, and we're going to talk about this later on in the show, really bad in terms of like equity, of having walkable space, of like having places to go buy groceries, just all of the stuff that goes into like being able to go outside in the middle of the day and feel like you're a human being. Just didn't have access to that stuff. And you just think of it as a fact of life. But when people like work on it, good things happen. Before we get into all that, I got two things that I want to talk about. I should have led the show with this. The Malcolm X Mutual Aid Fund, not the Malcolm X Mutual Aid Fund, the Black Panther Mutual Aid Fund. I'm thinking of Malcolm because it is his birthday today. The Black Panther Mutual Aid Fund, I'm going to stop this. It was put on by our friends at Community Movement Builders. They put together a mutual aid fund, like, and for you guys that know, like that group, the original Black Panther Party was like kind of obliterated by the state. and the people that are there are mostly like forgotten, and the people that use that branding now and like want to be affiliated with the Black Panther Party because like it's good for clout and donations, that's cool. But the people who are like who actually did it have like lived really through it the last 15 to 20 years. I'm really glad that someone decided, and a lot of the time it just means someone deciding to do it. Stuff like groceries, like getting just like extra money for utilities or just to buy margaritas. Sometimes a $50 or $100 in a mutual aid fund. You know, the people that are really going through it, even just like hanging out with them and giving them some humanity and dignity and stuff like that, it goes a long way. I'm just super excited that that fund is going, and it's also like doing pretty well. Like it's not nothing, but obviously it just launched today, and we'd love it if that fund was like a stable fund because you can make good like decisions on how to do the most good for the most people, and like the more you have, the easier it is. You know, I could go on patreon.com, a veteran BPP mutual aid. Before we get into discussing, you know, green spaces and building a beautiful city, I just want to rant. I just want to be weird. I want to talk about like some really screwed up things that have been going on. And I know that's not woke. I know that's not productive. You know, some of this stuff is so just off the wall that it's hard to talk about it in a polite way. But the Capitol riots happened, right? These guys all got together January 6th and tried to like knock over the government effectively. And I know that we talked just endlessly about, hey, listen, is that rad? You know, but the number one thing that sticks out to me is that now that those people are slowly but surely facing some semblance of consequences, we can talk about, well, is this to the long-term benefit of the military state? By the way, if that's your opinion, you can leave a comment here on Twitch, leave a comment on Twitter, leave a comment on YouTube. We bring your comments up and I will yell at you. But the defense that they're going with is not one that's based in political ideology. The lawyers for these guys, and they're mostly guys, have just defaulted to claiming mental imbalance and blaming the president. I saw on CNN, and maybe I'll play this clip later on in the show, a clip where there was a guy who was just saying, oh, I don't know what I'm doing from day to day in my life, and I was raised to just do what the president says. I have no sense of personal morality or responsibility, and I was raised that the president of the United States is the ultimate arbiter of morality in the world, and since he said, you know, to wild out, I was going to wild out too. In what world is this going to get you out of jail? Can you imagine like a black man at a courthouse talking about, you know, the Barack Obama told me to do something, and so I went to do it? First of all, we all know that the people who like treat the president like they're the gospel and that's their authority figure, they are never, ever, ever like into that when the president is a Democrat, like under no circumstances. Kyle, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Brandyn?
So while we're waiting for Lindsay and Melanie, I just wanted to talk about, have you heard about these protesters, the Capitol riot guys?
Oh, yeah, the Q Sharman and his lawyer?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So the attorney is just saying everyone who invaded the Capitol and did all that stuff, they're just mentally handicapped. They don't know, like they don't know what they're doing. And they were brainwashed.
Right. Your Honor, my client was actually a neurodivergent small being, and as such, he was not responsible.
Oh, God. Yeah. The small bean defense is really happening. I know that, like, if you're a lawyer, you have to say something. And like they're in 4K just doing it. Like the FBI, you know how hard you have to work to get a case from the FBI? They have evidence on top of evidence. They have reams of it. And for this, y'all all videotape yourselves. So it's not like the lawyer can even say like, my client wasn't there.
Or it was somebody else, but no.
So now they just have to say, you have to belittle you have to pass the buck and blame it on to somebody else. Why don't we ever get away with stuff like this? Have you ever do you know any black people that have ever just been like, yeah, man, I was told to commit a crime?
Right, the brainwashing excuse never works for anybody else, no.
Do you know, yeah, how come like instead of what about black on black crime, they say like they were brainwashed? No one, I've never heard anyone talk about brainwashing for any marginalized community except about they were brainwashed to vote for Democrats. Right,
or exploited, or were actually being used, but
yeah,
I guess these guys weren't brainwashed to vote for Trump. Or they are, you know.
Well, now that they're legally culpable, like once it's your ass on the line, you can say anything to a lawyer.
Yeah, I've got the article up here too.
There's no legal, the thing that makes it really funny, and I read this article like this morning. The thing that makes it really funny as a criminal defense is that it's not a criminal defense. Like it's literally just something that they made up for the case.
It's not like a plea by insanity or something.
No, it's not the insanity defense. It's just the like, I don't know. We don't want to go to jail. Can you help us out here? Do you think that any of these people or most of these people will do time? Or do you think that they will be taking pleas? What is the political landscape, do you think, going into all this? Like, we have midterms and stuff like in a year and a half.
God, I haven't given this much. I'm thinking a lot of them are going to take pleas.
It's a federal case. It's a federal case. This ain't no APD type stuff. I would, the APD might lose your evidence or something. So you might go to a party and an envelope gets slid under a desk, and then suddenly Keisha is making press releases demanding that you're innocent. I'm so terrible about this and all that stuff. But the feds, nah, not these federales. Oh my goodness. Hey. Before we go to anything else, and we can talk about cable news or whatever. Did you hear about the mayor is now going out? Like, Keisha's out.
Yeah, no, I saw that last week, I think, when she announced it. What was that, last Thursday?
Yeah, but it's been in our time, it's been like one episode. So even though it happened like after our last show, now it's like, oh yeah, that is still breaking news.
Yeah, Keisha Lance Bottoms is out, not running for re-election.
Do you think she would have won re-election?
Probably, yeah.
I think the reason why she's leaving now is because next term's going to be a shit show.
You don't think she would have won? Or you think
she would have won? She would have won, but I don't think she would have been a popular mayor after winning.
No.
Like, people are just getting more and more mad at her by the day, and problems are getting worse and worse. Buckhead is talking about dropping out of the city. That's like 40% of your budget right there.
Now, I haven't lived in Atlanta too long. Is that like something they come back with every 5 years? Like, ooh, we're gonna leave.
Yeah.
I get the feeling.
Yeah, we have that with we had that with Johns Creek. It is something that exists. The idea of just all of Buckhead just jumping never seemed super realistic. I don't know if it's gonna happen now, but it's wild. It's wild.
Because that's all the tax space there.
Yeah, so if you're the mayor going into the next term, that's not fun to be doing that job. You might as well go and quit and go do something else for a few years.
And what are Buckhead's demands? Like
No
more
taxes.
police or no taxes. That's
No
right.
taxes. More stop and frisk.
Yeah, like their own security or something.
Mandatory suplexes for black people. you drive past the street and it's just like, here you go. Drop you on your neck.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, she's managed to like alienate people who don't like the police and the police, which is pretty impressive.
Of course.
By reinstating that officer, but then also, I think, what are we, like 250 cops short of what they say they need?
Yeah. The APD budget is going upwards.
Right, of course.
Like and like most city budgets, or the police, the budgets are going upwards. It's a 6% increase this year. I think we just wanted like a pause on spending. There was a really soft bill that came through last year to the Atlanta City Council, and it was modeled on what's it called? Not 8 to abolition. There was another one that was like a 5 to survive or some nonsense like that. It was like a more gentle, reduced violence kind of thing. And Atlanta City Council, like if you've ever been to Atlanta City Council meeting, bro, they love the cops, bro. Like it is if you look at discourse in other cities, like or New York or Philadelphia or LA, there are like passionate advocates or whatever. But down here, it's like, nope, no, thank you.
We got nobody on our side on the city council.
No.
Yet.
Not yet. Who knows? Might change. There is, in addition, I've got that video, by the way. Here's the video. I'm going to show it.
Okay.
And this is from the Capitol riots. Before we get back to city development, I want to wrap this whole horrible thing in an eggshell. Hold on a second. Got this thing to share video. All right, here's an apology. And if you're watching this, feel free to accept this serious apology from this serious individual. What's happening? We're going to refresh this. There we go.
There we go.
And when you see it, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you will adopt a completely different view on human responsibility to take care of themselves and make intelligent and sane decisions. This is without a doubt one of the funniest clips that I have heard in the last 2 or 3 weeks on a major news network.
All right.
Now, what was it that you started to hear that impressed you so much that it made you forget your faith and replace it with faith in Trump?
I would say basically I believe the president of the United States. I mean, ever since I was, a little kid, I was told the president of the United States is the man that you look up to. All right. As of right now, we've, only had a man in the White House as the president. And so that's who you look up to.
Right.
That's who you follow. The Bible calls us to follow government. And I got wrapped up in what was being told to me, in what was.
Do these people know that they're full of shit, or I mean, he has to his lawyer is just you got to say something, man.
I love the implication that he wouldn't have followed if it was a woman in the White House.
Well, I think he wanted to sound. He was he's like, man, I got to stay out of jail, and then he's like, and I was told that the president was the man, and then he was like, wait, that's not woke. Maybe the president won't be a man one day. I think this dude is just a tailspin. He just doesn't want to offend anybody. He's just trying to stay out.
What was on the TV, what the media was proclaiming.
Not the media. Fox. It's a distinction with a difference.
Oh, okay.
What were you hearing and seeing be reinforced that made you so revved up?
Also, I like that Chris Cuomo's number one takeaway from this thing is not our channel. Like,
Don't rope us into this.
like there's no ridiculous, heinous bullshit on CNN. Yes, it's wild. Okay.
I would basically say, I really got into it when the election started. When election night happened and everything was going on, I truly believed that Trump won the election. As of right now, I acknowledge and I know that Joe Biden is our president. That's not a mystery. That's a fact. But I felt like
he didn't say that Biden won the election. This dude is like a Death Eater. And he knows Voldemort's coming back wearing the 4-5 in like 2 more years. And so he's like, well, Joe Biden is the president now. That is a statement of fact. What does that even mean?
Maybe I believe that America was being robbed of a president, and I now know that was a lie.
Did you not read or see anything else except what was on Fox and Newsmax and that whole ilk of right-wing propaganda?
I can't recall everything that I saw. I will be honest. We're now, how many months from it? This is my first time on live TV too, so it's one of those things where it's like I can't recall every single thing that I saw, that I heard, and everything like that. I can just say, I believe what was being told to me.
Do you blame Fox?
Chris, may I say something?
Yeah, hold on one second, Counselor.
Hold on. I'm getting in on the most
President
important
Trump?
thing here. I'm getting on.
Who is the other guy? Is that his lawyer? Or
it probably is. I don't know. What's really wild is that like this guy is just looking for the quotable. Like there's no systemic whatever.
I blame myself. I take full accountability for my actions.
Then why are we here?
Because of that, I have gone to God and asked for forgiveness. I've prayed, God, please forgive me. I take full responsibility for my actions. This isn't a cop-out, right? God tells us to come to him and beg for forgiveness. And that's what I've done. And that's what I asked for America. I asked for America to please forgive me. I shouldn't have been there that day. I shouldn't have been involved on those Capitol steps. You've seen the pictures. There's no secret. But I pray to God that you please forgive me. And that's all I can really say.
When did you realize you'd been misled?
I've realized I've been misled a few days after.
Yeah, man.
Immediately after.
These are the guys that were at fucking Stone Mountain. But if you put on a suit, and you say, like, man, I was raised to love the president, then they just all, you get on CNN. Like, why is this guy on CNN? Because fucking this host wants to score one on the rival network, because CNN, I mean, their ratings are going down the tube since the election. And all of them they all want more. They all want part 2. They want another extension of the drama, like more than they care about.
What happened that day should not have happened. And I don't care who you are. What happened that day and what I saw that day should not have happened. We should not attack law enforcement. We should not attack our American government. The Bible does say no violence. The Bible does say to follow the government, whether you believe them or not.
Man,
and that's the
if
stance
you don't get out of here with this bullshit.
And I regret my actions that day, and I take full responsibility for them.
Man, the Bible does say, the Bible says bad. The Bible says no.
Hitting.
Stop it. The Bible says quit it.
I think Murasaki Komodo brought up a good point here. You think it's a pardon day one?
I don't think they're going to try to. I don't know if they're going to prevent Trump. I think someone will try to prevent Trump from running for office again, but clearly the mechanisms for democracy are not doing anything that they're supposed to be doing. We still have like the filibuster. I could easily see Donald Trump running again and people going, well, now that people know that he's dangerous, he can't win again. All that nonsense.
Well,
And,
I guess you have to really think about where the focus is in the Republican Party, right? Like, is it with Trump or with all the Trump imitators now?
yeah. And I mean, in my opinion, it's with Trump.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, even like his kid is not holding a candle to him. The other people that are in that political party, they're definitely thinking like that they still want to work for Trump. Half of these people that are in the Republican Party like have not even denounced any of that stuff that went on. And in fact, you see from like the people that are in Congress, oh, it's like they're on tour. They're just they're walking through the hall in an orderly fashion. And it turns out
a model protest, really.
These people did not. This was the worst case scenario. It was the second worst case scenario for them, which is like it didn't work. They're all in 4K. It's good for them because everybody seems not serious about actually doing anything to them. But I'll show you this. This guy's Andrew Clyde. If you go to Insider, it's businessinsider.com, you will see that this guy was actually, they found him. They like literally found him in the riot, like barricading the doors and shit. They're all like, I know that Harry Potter is like the most cringe metaphor that you can ever use. It's a shame that they used up Harry Potter because this is all Death Eater behavior. They know, that they're just trying to stay out of Azkaban right now, so that when the Dark Lord returns, they can say, "Oh, Dark Lord, I never betrayed you." This guy said during a House Oversight Committee hearing that it was a bald-faced lie to call the riot an insurrection, and that it resembled a quote normal tourist visit. And so they found a picture of this guy like in the thing, holding up, like barricading the chamber door,
so that they didn't get in. And,
yeah. So how could it not be serious? If you were doing all that shit. As one of the members, and they asked him, and he said, as one of the members who stayed in the Capitol and barricaded it, I can tell you the House floor was never breached, and it was not an insurrection.
But he did call it a mob. Oh, well, he said
they were undisciplined. They were not disciplined enough. Like,
but they did resemble tourists. Just an undisciplined mob of tourists.
Yeah. So, like the charge here is, they was just kind of tripping. They had a little bit too much to drink, and it was rowdy. Basically, they're comparing this to like Lakers Warriors tonight. Like, oh, there was a little crowd. They got a little tipsy, By the way, well,
really, if you've seen the Eagles win, this is nothing.
Oh my God! Yeah, listen, we cannot be holding, that standard for like comparing to the Philadelphia Eagles fans.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a mess. They're a mess. And basically, the solution is just to like enforce the laws that they claim to already have, and they enforce with vigor against like protesters. Yeah, get those guys. If we're not all on the same team here, get those guys. Listen, I think we should take a break. We're going to take 60 seconds.
All right, I'm going to go get some water.
Yeah, let's all get some water. I'm probably going to talk. We're going to talk about Rudy Giuliani's cringy son. is running for governor, and it's like a total mess.
Yes, I just saw that this morning. It's the first time I'd ever heard of him.
I didn't even know that this dude even had a son, and his son's kind of a loser. We'll be back in a minute. All that good stuff.
All right.
Speaking of cringe, freaking Daily Kos is just one of the cringiest websites ever. But they've got all of this Andrew Giuliani stuff on deck. So we're going to spend a little time there. This is real. This is, the real Rudy Giuliani is, of course, fighting cases and like trying to stay out of jail. So the son is taking over the family business. It's an easy business. Rudy's got a list. Rudy's got a mailing list built like crazy during the Trump era. Rudy's going to jail. Give it to your son. All you got to do is have enough money to buy some signs, and suddenly I can be governor of a state. Why not? My dad was a mayor.
Right. We're seeing the construction of a new political dynasty.
This is the construction of a new political dynasty, and God help us.
And I look forward to a time when we have our individuality back and taking that mask off. It represents so much when you think about it in terms of being yourself, being an individual, right? There's something about the mask that makes you one of many. Now that it is lifted, tomorrow I will be taking my mask.
There's something about the mask. The mask takes away our individuality.
I don't know about him. I got some masks with little fun designs. This one here, it's got lemons on it.
Yeah, just get a good mask. Just get a nice looking mask. It's real cringy. It's real weird. Get some perspective. So
let me know whenever you're ready. Which one is that? Is that Miss Manhattan or is that Lady Liberty? That's Lady Liberty. Everybody ready?
Oh, New York. I'm from New York City, baby.
yeah, this guy's like, man, that's a hard day. That's a hard day to try to be governor of New York and you don't know where the fucking Statue of Liberty is. Like that is real painful. That's real rough. So here's what we know about. This is a great story, and one of the reasons why Daily Kos won out. This guy sued his college for kicking him off the golf team. He sued his college for kicking him off the golf team. And in terms of damages, he wanted the right to play golf there at the college for the rest of his life. That was when they recruited him. They said, you can come by and play golf whenever you feel like it. And that like sunk real like weight into his psyche. It's very.
Oh, I'm just reading why he got kicked off the team. I think that's important to mention.
Okay.
He may have misbehaved in February when he tossed an apple in a teammate's face, flipped his putter a few feet, threw and broke a club, and gunned his engine in a parking lot.
Can you imagine just being like a student or something? And like, you know how hard you've got to work? Let's pretend it's like a normal person and not some other rich goon, which it could have easily been. But like a normal person who goes to like Duke University, you have to study really hard. Or like, let's say you're on an athletic scholarship, even if
Right,
it's
you already got a golf scholarship or something.
yeah, you still have to like you're still working at the game, and then just some total clueless smudge, and his daddy is an attorney general somewhere, and it's just making your life worse, and it's just having a violent temper tantrum and tearing stuff up. That's so bad that Duke University doesn't want to have you there on the golf course. Do y'all know how bad a Duke University golf course is?
You
That's
think
probably
so?
one of the most segregated spaces in
Oh,
America.
well, yeah.
You know, Tiger Woods is not sliding through the Duke University golf team, I would bet.
No. But I'm sure now Andrew's welcome at Mar-a-Lago anytime.
Well, Mar-a-Lago clout does not, I don't know if it transfers to the real world, honestly. Here's the good news. He's running as a Republican. For him, good news for him. So he just needs to be better than the other douches that are running for Republican governor of New York. But I don't think he'll be able to do it. Just from that amount of footage, I think he's just going to be a rolling disaster at all times.
Yeah, they're going to hold that Statue of Liberty one over him at least.
I know that like New York is having like elections in a little over a month and a half. I don't have any major takeaways from New York politics. It's really scummy. It's the worst place in the world.
What are the latest polls?
Well, Yang was talking his trash, and I think that Yang read a poll that said, hey, a lot of people who are voting are pro-Israel, and you could make a good political move by being as strongly pro-Israel as possible to draw that group into your camp. The problem is he went so overboard that like the people who were supporting Yang already were progressive and voting on name recognition.
Right, and he's losing them now.
Yeah.
Because he dropped enough to put Adams, Eric Adams, as top. So he lost the top spot.
Eric Adams, former Republican governor. Not former Republican governor. Former Republican, wants to bring back stop and frisk.
Right. That was him in that video. Have you seen that video of like all the places your kid could hide guns and drugs in their room?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's not good at all. So, like, I have no conception of what a positive version of that would be. It just stinks. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and I would have hoped for better for Diane Morales, but it's not looking great for her.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Diane Morales is doing really well on Twitter, but like, it doesn't seem to be translating to, first of all, it's hard to like, talking about running for office in a city is already really hard. Talking about running for office in a city the size of New York is incredibly hard. The budget, just your pure budget requirements are backbreaking to, that's why Yang was doing so well.
Right, because he had the name recognition.
Yeah, it helps. Nobody knows, all these people running for office and nobody knows who the hell you are. It makes perfect sense. But whatever the situation is, Morales has not so far made that mainstream breakthrough to be one of the main 3 or 4 candidates yet. And time.
She's got the same amount. She's got the same percent of voters as the New York Times official endorsee. So,
who is the New York Times endorsee?
Catherine Garcia. I'm not really sure.
Okay, yeah. She's a city manager, if I recall.
Okay.
She is definitely a bureaucratic city of New York person working her way to the top.
Yeah, food czar for the emergency food program during COVID. Housing authority, sanitation department. All right, yeah. Bureaucrat.
And you can totally understand why the New York Times would recommend someone like that.
Right.
Sort of an extension of their Klobuchar decision. I call it the Klobuchar decision. Can you believe that they endorsed 2 people? I know that's way back. That's old news. But the New York Times endorsed 2 different people for president, and both of them didn't do well.
Yeah, I almost forgot it was 2. Right, I remember Klobuchar.
And they also endorsed Warren.
Mm-hmm.
They should have just picked one. Or they should have picked, like, you know, one. Don't be a coward.
Yeah,
Like,
might as well just pick everybody. Hedge your bet.
It's not like your endorsement is like a DSA endorsement and you have to volunteer. It's to help people who read your paper make a decision. It would be better for you to say, we can't help you make a good decision, so we have no endorsement, than to say, like, pick one of 2 people. Imagine, I mean, look, if you're relying on the New York Times for this kind of information, you deserve what's coming to you. You know, you deserve to just be put in a psychological tailspin.
Yeah, it's pretty dire situation to be in. I was thinking back, I was on a plane, what was that, last week, and the guy in first class had some paper, can't remember which, big feature article on Yang. He had the front cover too, some business something, but I think that has changed as of recently. So
yeah, what is, I mean, for you, what is your like number one takeaway from the New York mayor's race? Mine's is it's going to get worse. Like, New York is not going to improve ever. That's rude to say. Maybe not ever, but you know what I mean. Like,
well, number one takeaway is that you're not going to defund NYPD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when we talk about that kind of, I mean, you could even, you can make that your metric, or you could just talk about, like, are we continuing on the right path? And right now, the leading progressive candidate is Stringer, who has his own gross problems.
What did he do?
Sex pesting.
Oh,
of course.
Yeah, I see it here.
Yeah, of course.
Pressured for sex.
And
I know Morales had a scandal of her own, nothing sex related, but it was she bribed somebody for her water meter or something.
Yeah, just some nonsense. Yeah, it sucks. But I mean, we live in Atlanta, and it's not like we have any. Is there anybody in Atlanta mayor race that you see as a shining hope, or is somebody?
No, I don't even know if anybody's like a strong front runner. If
Alex Barella was here, we would all go, yuck, yuck, yuck. Alex is going to be the mayor. But Alex isn't here. Like, we can all, like, Alex isn't going to become mayor, although there's a little opening. But, yeah.
I should be following this closer to tell the truth.
Alex Barella is a meme candidate. Alex has been running for mayor since, like, 2019. He's been running for a while. He's like an Atlanta artist and activist. He's a rad person. We could have Alex on the show at any time. But the other people are like Antonio Brown, and Kasim Reed is talking about.
Has he officially announced anything yet?
No. Just Kwanzaa Hall has talked about communing with the Lord and getting back in the mix. Like, just a lot of our usuals.
Everyone seems to be taking a while for an election that's this year, you know.
People,
like taking their sweet time.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I think we're just going to see like fundraising and then just television. And that's good. I mean, I don't think anybody has really grabbed the zeitgeist for Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's nobody I want, that's made me. But it's okay. What's good? Go ahead.
What do you think of Antonio Brown?
I think Antonio Brown is onto something. Whenever you see the system try that hard to destroy somebody, they're not, you know, there's now that doesn't mean that the dirt that he did is not legitimate dirt. I just feel like
what was that thing again? I so a couple
just
years ago.
some nonsense with the staffer, and spending and funding and stuff like that, financial, you know, identity theft and loans, and it was just a bunch of money going up and down and back and forth. Hey Kennedy, we're talking about we haven't started talking about beautiful cities. We've been spending.
I came late just so you'd get the other riffraff out of the way, Brandon. Come on.
I know we did other riffraff. This city stuff I'm saving that to be our main event. So we talked about like the Capitol rioters and going on CNN and like begging for help. And before we started talking about like city stuff, we were talking about our current situation in Atlanta. Because, you know, in New York, their politics are a mess. They've got a mayoral race, and there's no clear front runner that the activist world is behind. There's something similar in Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms left, but there's not like a clear, not even among the activist base, just in Atlanta, it doesn't seem like there's anyone who has excitement. A lot of the people who have the name recognition are retreads who have all been disappointing in one way or another. And so I think the city's just trying to puzzle out which theme ride they want to go on, you know, for the next term of mayor.
Yeah.
So Antonio Brown is probably the member of city council that is most vocally friendly to the left. But Antonio Brown like engages with stuff in the movement all the time. But in addition to that, has been indicted for like fraud and, you know, financial stuff. He insists that it's a misunderstanding and he's being persecuted, but also he's a kind of person that would become persecuted. So I think people are a little iffy, you know. And I don't think people are really rallying to Councilman Brown in the way that he was kind of got in there. And if you're a progressive and you are in those spaces, you need the public to unambiguously be behind you in order for you to get that kind of coalition. Like you know, we talk a lot about being with the people and all other stuff, but you've really got to have mass support. And when you do things that are really divisive, it becomes harder to have, you know, to be the people's champion or anything like that. Once you have an indictment, or like in the case of New York, once you've got like a sex pest, you know, scandal, like you're not the people's champion anymore. You're a person that's in the running for the office.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a bummer. Yeah. Kennedy, what is your local? First of all, how's your day been? What'd you do today?
Yeah.
We went to some plant nurseries, got some tacos. It was awesome. We had to kill some time because we were trying to get Amy's prescription sorted out.
That's so good.
And so we were just like, okay, well, until Walgreens gets it. They were kind of giving us a little bit of weird trouble. Not anything super out of the ordinary, but you know how like you have to give these places your address like 5 times and shit before they fucking get it and all that stuff. So we were just wandering around town waiting for Walgreens to finally fill her prescriptions, and it was awesome. We looked at plants and ate good food. The best. How
many plants do you own, Kennedy?
Like
at least no. Listen, Kyle, that is a baby-sized sample.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, it's just a greenhouse in there. All right.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Well, it's not super extreme at the moment, but like it varies from year to year a lot. And like this year, we're not going super hard because we're trying to move this year. So we're trying to actually limit the number of plants that we like start and things like that. But like last year, I mean, like the whole patio was like lettuce and strawberries. Oh, wow. You know, house plants on the inside. I had a carnivorous plant, but it died. But I want to get a little carnivorous window bog going for my kitchen at some point because there's always fruit flies in the kitchen.
Oh, Like, is it self-sufficient, or do you have to feed them yourself?
So carnivorous plants don't have to eat bugs to survive, strictly speaking, but they won't thrive if they never eat a bug. Is kind of like a good way to think about it. So like they'll just like slowly grow and do their thing, but then like when a bug comes along, they'll like a lot of times they'll put on blooms or things like that after, you know what I mean? Like it's like once they get those nutrients that they need, the plant will really go do its thing to the fullest extent. So
Right.
yeah, I like plants. I could talk about plants all day. In fact, I think that's appropriate for talking about imagining better cities and better places and things like that, is talking about things like plants. And things like public art and things that people see and it makes them feel good. Just naturally.
Public greenery, you know?
Yeah.
Should we jump into that? Oh, can't hear you.
Brandon, we can't hear you.
You guys want to look at some street art in Atlanta, or do you want to talk about city planning?
Let's talk about public art, both funded and non-funded.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Well, I don't know, like
approved and unapproved.
What are some pieces that are unapproved that you like? I mean, I can just go through my own selection, but if you want to,
yeah, I notice, street art a lot. I just don't really take a lot of pictures of it, to tell the truth.
I really want to go out more often this year and do more pictures and stuff. My mom didn't always take a lot of pictures of herself, like as a young adult, and I want to like just be out and doing more stuff, and I think all of us do, which is one of the reasons why I wanted this to be a theme. There is tons of really good art in Atlanta. You have to be in the middle of, you kind of have to be in the middle of town in order to get like all the really great spots. Like if you go from like East Atlanta downtown and then you start going upwards, like through the Midtown area, you will find just so much dope stuff. Now, obviously, if you go to like West Atlanta and West End and all those places, they have tons of dope stuff too. But I think the coolest street, we have the Van Gogh mural.
Right.
Yeah.
You've never seen this? This is near you.
I have seen that.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, don't make me grab you and take you.
No, I've been to World 5 Points. I know, like the closest street art to me, or closest like a bunch of it, is probably like Croc Street Tunnel, because that's not far from me.
I love Croc Street Tunnel. Did you see Croc Street Tunnel and Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I thought that was so. Oh, okay. Yeah, I watched it, and they were in Magdripur, which is supposed to be like a comic Malaysia, dirty underworld of criminals. And so, in one of the dark, gritty spots, they're, on the phone in a tunnel, and there's some graffiti and art in the tunnel, and they're trying to look mysterious, and like, that's just down the street.
Right. I think it's cool. Like every time I like bike over there, there's always people painting something on the outside or inside. It's great because like you don't have to get that's like an approved, unapproved spot, right? Like you can just go and paint whenever.
Yeah.
We got the rainbow crosswalks too. That's not.
I love going to Midtown and doing the rainbow crosswalk, and usually we go through there. I guess this year Pride will be happening, and I love the rainbow crosswalk. We usually go down there through the march. I don't want to spend a whole sidebar on this, but we did a Pride march like last year, and the people in front of us were way better at it. They rented a truck and they were handing out condoms. Next time, Pride march, free condoms. That's how you go all the way.
Yeah, they were definitely doing that. I was at like 2019 Pride.
Yeah, we gotta get back on the vibe.
Listen, Pride shouldn't be entirely sex fest, but we got to stop pretending like it's bad if Pride is a hookup scene. Come on, that's fun. That's good stuff. That
I
used to
mean-
be like my main thing back in the day. Come on, what are you talking about?
Kennedy, you would be enraged at what it's like now because it's super corporate sponsored. There's like an Aldi contingent and a Delta contingent. You know,
Right.
quick Trip like the Quick Trip logo will be like in rainbow colors. Like it's
Like there's still guys in skimpy underwear and stuff, but
yes, there is
it's like there's a Capital One symbol on it too.
yes, there is.
Sucks.
There is like they do have room for like community organizations and stuff in the Pride Parade, but we're usually like in the D or E or C block, and like Delta's in like the A or B block. But also, look, Delta's got, I mean, they've got really nice stuff for those. They've all got shirts, they've all got everything, but it is pretty inclusive. Like all of the Atlanta organizations, you can be like a religious organization. You can go with your church. The libertarians do
I
it.
like that to an extent, but I just have to say it kind of sucks that Pride has become this thing where you try to get in the parade for your organization's clout.
Yeah.
Like even the small orgs that do it, like I don't hate all of you, but like I don't love that this is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it just like Pride back in the day used to be exclusively by queer orgs for queer orgs, basically, you know? And like,
did you
now,
notice a shift right after marriage was legalized, or were corporations starting to get involved before that? Or
they've been getting involved for my entire lifetime. Like you'd have to find an older queer to really talk about it if you really wanted to talk about like a Pride not touched by corporate influence. But yeah, after gay marriage, it definitely ramped way up. Pride events before gay marriage were still largely by and for queer orgs and their allies, you know, like our allies, etc. It's definitely just different now, and it kind of sucks. Like I said, I don't want to completely say it sucks because it's good to have acceptance and it's good to have more people get involved, and there's a lot of positive things.
Yeah.
But it also kind of sucks. Like Pride used to be a great place to go actually like learn about queer stuff. And I feel like that's gotten lost in this shuffle where it's like more about clout.
learn about queer stuff?
Yeah, like it used to be like if you were like one of the reasons Pride existed, okay, and this is something that people who aren't queer may not understand at all out there watching, and so I'm glad to talk about this. One of the reasons Pride existed was so that people who were trying to come out as queer could go to Pride and talk to people that were obviously out and proud and willing to talk about it.
I've never thought about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like just like stopping somebody walking by and asking them.
Yeah, or I mean, you got to remember too that like Pride traditionally is not just like a couple hours of parade. It's a multi-day thing in a lot of cities with like workshops and, you know, things like that too that go along with it. But yeah, the point, even at the parade, a young, let's say, you know, like 15-year-old living with conservative parents, scared, looking for a place to go talk to someone, confused queer, could go to the Pride Parade, hang out, and find some people that obviously were out and would talk to them. And that's getting lost.
Well, do you think that that's necessary given that like we have Tumblr?
Yeah, just the whole internet.
That's what I don't know if that's better or worse, but
No,
like
it's good in a lot of ways. I don't want to just completely shit on it, but people need to have real, actual support people in their life, not
And
just people on the
locally.
internet. There's too much weird, crazy shit on the internet. And there's a lot of just general posturing on the internet and things like that. Sometimes you got to have a real life support network so that you can get real life answers, if that makes sense. I think this is something that anybody who's been marginalized or poor in America can probably kind of relate to what I'm saying right now. Like, you can go online and you can talk to people about the experience of being poor, but you aren't going to get certain tips and tricks from the internet. Right?
yeah, it's
right.
And it's the same thing with queerness. It's the same, like you aren't going to get a realistic picture of holistic, healthy queerness from only the internet, because the internet is full of weird shit. Like that fucking person today talking about how monogamy is capitalism or whatever. And like, I'm all for non-monogamy. Like, I'm down with it. I'm not monogamous, but I don't talk about it a lot because, first of all, this kind of shit. But this is stupid. You can't. There's always this weird, like, moral games and stuff with a lot of online queer spaces.
Yeah, it's less
bizarre shit going on where, like, you need to find some people in real life so that you can have like a normal conversation about what's going on with you.
What I've found just is on the internet, like on online spaces, discourses, conversations, they are so built around like takes and agreement and disagreement and opinions that it is hard for a person to figure out their own specific identity in the midst of like all of those hot takes that are going around.
No, you cannot discover yourself in fucking take culture.
Yeah, no, I mean, you really literally can't. Like, it's just not a healthy space. So, I mean, it's just a matter of, I think now it's just you find some friends and hopefully it's easier to like, some cultural shifts are just because some things that were created were like that because doing it the easier way was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Black people deal with that kind of cultural stuff all the time. Like, it's easier to go to a bar and talk to somebody now without it becoming like a violent incident. And just as a matter of fact, it makes other parts of culture that were developed to adapt to those things, it makes them kind of decay. You know, when integration happened, a lot of those Black institutions, I mean, like, we live by Auburn Avenue, and a lot of those Black businesses and cultural institutions that after integration, for many other reasons, but, you know, degraded.
You can see that in my hometown, like just how downtown Jackson, South Jackson just sort of fell apart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is before we get?
I want to address a comment actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's from a few minutes ago, but I just now saw it. This person asked, "Where are the sidewalks lined with fruit-producing trees, public food jungles?" This is a great question, and I'd like to actually talk about the fact that one of the reasons we don't have this is because of an overuse of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides that have made it relatively unsafe to just have like an apple tree on your corner, like at the sidewalk. Because if your city workers are spraying pesticides on that apple tree every 2 weeks, you don't want to eat those apples.
Absolutely not.
And also, if they're spraying insecticides every 2 weeks, the apples aren't even going to grow because they will not be pollinated.
Right.
So,
I know right around the corner from me. I was walking by. There are mulberry trees that actually do fruit. So I collected some of the mulberries. They're pretty good. I hope there weren't pesticides all in them. But yeah, I'd like to see more of that. Just good kind of blackberry type thing.
I mean, if it's just from the neighborhood, a lot of people, like we have neighborhoods around here where people grow tons of prickly pear cactus. And when the prickly pears are ripe, if you want to harvest them from their yard, they're happy to let you do it because they're not going to do it.
It's not someone's yard. It's like it's on the site of a dilapidated like manufacturing something that has been closed down for decades probably.
Well, even that's a little safer. The biggest concern though is like actual public maintained spaces. Those get sprayed to death. So like we would have to really change our attitudes about some of that stuff if we were going to start having public food gardens, because all of our publicly maintained green spaces are being overloaded with chemicals.
Okay, I have takes on that. And one of these takes is going to be me with the water bottle, like, calm down, everybody. those, like, I've seen projects to do like fruit in public places, and it's cleanup. Like, you've got to, like, because the amount of fruit does not always match the amount of consumption. So there's a lot of mess if it's just in a public space. And Kal-El mentions community gardens, which is that's a totally different thing than like,
I actually
plant some peach trees.
I'm sorry to jump on you right away, Brandon, but actually this is interesting because it used to be really common, especially in the rural South, for people to organize groups to go around looking for neglected fruit trees to harvest the fruit and do stuff like make jam. And if you are going to have effective public food programs like that, you have to have that side of it too. You can't just have trees with just apples falling on the ground. That's not super useful, actually.
Right.
Sure, like, you know, it'll make a kid's day every now and again, and that's good. But you know, if you actually want these kinds of things to be effective, you have to have some other infrastructure in place. And like I said, in the South, it used to be really common for people, especially women, to organize and go around from neighborhood to neighborhood, house to house, yard to yard, garden to garden, and say, "You doing something with those apples?"
Yeah, I've never heard of that being an organized thing. I know back home we have a neighbor down the street who grows pear trees, and he'll just go door to door with pears and drop off like pounds of them. You know, it's great because you can like freeze them, make them into crisp whenever. But you know, more than that, yeah, there has to be some sort of informal distribution network. Otherwise, you're just gonna have a lot of fruit rotting on the ground. Can't hear you, Brandon.
Together community gardens. I literally know a couple people that are community garden folks, and we're trying to build one in Tucker. It's just all of these things. Yeah, it just all takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing a Juneteenth event. I'm doing a block party in July. I'm doing a labor panel. So like, we are working on like getting some footage. I should probably just start asking for money more often. But yeah, we want to get some footage. We're making phone calls. And we're going to go down to a existing community garden. We already built those like credibilities or whatever. And we'll take like some camera and get some really good footage and have like some interviews talking about community gardening and stuff like that. And we think that'll be like something everybody can participate in and be really fun.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. I think people really undervalue that kind of shit sometimes. But let me tell you something. If you just happen to be like walking past your community garden and they're harvesting and they hand you a couple of fresh tomatoes or something like that, that makes your day.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I think the left talks a little too much about material stuff sometimes and forgets that morale is also like something that we need if we're going to have like a revolution.
You've got to have a culture that is sustainable. You've got to have like, it's got to be something that like, no, it's hard to find normal people that are willing to devote so much time and effort and energy to, you know, doing all of this hard unpaid labor. Like, hey, I know like you guys are like, for sure, totally got to organize it. Okay, here are the steps from totally got to organize it to actually organizing it. First of all, you got to ask people that you know. Do you know anybody that runs a community garden? Then you got to start making calls to those people, start setting time to like have a conversation with them, make sure that their like goals and general stuff kind of match yours. Then you got to get, you know, the transportation to go out there. Then you've got to like get a camera guy and record it or do some audio and, you know, then you've got to get somebody to chop that into video. And then, you know, you got to publish it. And then you got to, all right, once you've done all that work, who's going to see it? Well, now you've got to go on that same texting tour with influencers and podcasters and all that stuff in order to get it. But once you do it,
talk about something else when you talk about influencers and podcasters, especially, I really got to bring this up. Y'all can't forget that it doesn't matter who, you know, did all the like phone calls and stuff. You
Yeah.
can't devalue the people that actually know how to grow food at the end of the day.
That's
We
damn
had
good.
this problem
tell ya.
with one of the community gardens in Burnsville. You probably know which one I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Amy's over here by me. And
Kennedy's talking about where I grew up now.
yeah. They had this nonprofit community garden there giving food to poor people. Really good thing overall on paper. Here was the only problem with that organization. I was working there as one of their farmers, and it was top down with us farmers at the bottom. We were the ones doing the actual work, so there was food. What the fuck?
What
I
were
don't even
the
understand that.
regulations that these
Yeah.
orgs were trying to put on you?
They weren't trying to. It's not even like
They were
they're
just
trying to
being
regulate it.
bossy?
It was just that. It's just that here you have these people bossing you around, making more money than you, that are working at a higher level than you in this org. They're going to fucking fundraisers and having fun and drinking champagne and rubbing elbows with people and doing all that stuff, making like $50,000 a year, $60,000, $80,000, $120,000 a year. Some of these nonprofit organizers.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of us farmers there. We're always shorthanded. We never have enough farmers. We're all being paid like $12 an hour, which is okay, but not great. And we're getting bossed around and shit on constantly, and bad communication and all kinds of stuff. And we're trying to tell them, hey, we should do this so that the crops grow better. And we can barely get any of that shit done.
You guys didn't do like a weekly, like, here's how to do it?
They barely even. When I got hired for that job, I met the organizer at the farm. We go around. She interviews me. I look at the farm. She hires me. Right? I saw her like 2 more times in the like 9 months that I worked there.
Yeah. So what we're describing
That's
is
it.
what happens in
That's absolutely terrifying.
Would have been an intentional community. This was supposed to be an intentional community land trust, and this is what happens when there's a generation gap and the community runs out of money, right? The people that can pay start making the decisions.
Brandon, you're muted.
Yeah, am I muted now?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about. You guys are fucked.
Amy, lean into that microphone so that we can hear you.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
Oh, that's it. Hi, everyone.
No.
You're fucked.
Thanks a lot. Really great idea.
This is the plight of when people try to do an intentional community from scratch without building the actual community ties that will be generational. On the one hand, the few families that do stick around do turn into royalty, but it's not enough. And the families that move in with money end up being able to make the decisions and sit on all the committees because, first of all, they're the only people that can pay for anything. And second of all, they're the only people with the free time. While I'm fixing somebody's freaking electronics for a day job, my boss is attending a community meeting and looking like a
community meeting held at like 1 p.m. Something.
Exactly.
Like
Some of them were even at okay time, but it's like they're telling me, hey, if you want to come to a meeting where we're going to talk about the actual organizational structure of things, it's at 8 p.m. on Wednesday or whatever. And I'm like, I farm on Wednesday from 7 a.m. until at like 8 p.m. Yeah. So like I would have to come straight from a 12-hour, because this is like the middle of summer and like you're doing 12 to 16-hour days. I'd have to come straight from an impossibly long day to your meeting. No, I'm exhausted.
For working class folks, like a normal time meeting is still not a normal time meeting, right?
No.
Like, sure. These people got kids. The people trying to come got kids, but it's different. It's different when you got money. It's different when you got the time, And so, it happens everywhere. It happens in the rural South. It happens in the urban South, right?
I feel like you said it was the group was specifically to provide like food for like homeless
for low income families.
Low income, yeah.
This particular organization was providing food for low income families They had one like farm of their own that the organization owned, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. God, that's a lot of money right there.
Right.
And then they had several other farmers that they worked with who provided like excess produce and things like that. And then
Yeah, that's not. I don't think that's
Yeah.
the sort of thing that really needs a top-down structure. And
no,
really, it should be like stakeholders in this group only.
Well, what
You know,
needs
not
organization-
NGO folks.
What needs organization every time is the preservation process.
yeah.
You know, growing food is.
Oh,
is
and that
step
never
one.
got done good enough because again, who's organizing this? Non-farmers who are not
Mhm.
listening to us, and so they ruined a bunch of garlic. They ruined a lot of other stuff while I was there. Like they.
Because you can like can stuff. And,
Brandon, I want to hear that. take
Ruin
on
garlic. I
garlic.
want this story.
yeah,
Okay, so
let's-
garlic. When you harvest garlic, you have to dry it and sort of kind of cure it in a way before it is like the product that you get from the store. The product that you get at the store is dried garlic. That's why it can just sit on your counter and last forever, is because it's been dried out to the extent that it won't like create like mold or something super quickly.
that makes sense. Okay.
But
Garlic,
if you fuck that process up, that garlic is ruined.
Garlic was actually considered a preservative in the Middle Ages. It's only because they also used oil. Oil is a preservative. Garlic is actually like not a preservative.
Highly perishable, like most vegetables.
Yeah.
Hanging fishnets to dry.
Yeah,
Heck let me put that
exactly.
comment
Yeah,
on the
yeah. Put that
freaking-
comment on the screen. This is what I'm talking
Wow.
about. Yes, literally.
Hang it
You got to hang the garlic up in airy cloth bags and shit, and let it dry in a dry enough space. And the space that they were using was a wet barn. The fucking wet barn basement. It wasn't dry at all. So it didn't work, and the garlic was largely ruined.
Anyway,
Great.
welcome to Farmcast.
So, all of this, though, when we talk about meeting the working class where they are, this is the kind of stuff I have in my mind, is that they should have been sending, first of all, it shouldn't have even, like you say, Kyle, it shouldn't have even been a fucking top-down organization with a bunch of people over the heads
What
of the
is the need
farmers.
for hierarchy here?
Yeah, what is the need for all that hierarchy? We need like maybe one person, right? That's like not farming and organizing things.
And they
Instead of,
handle
like,
they handle
7
donations.
And
Yeah.
to like 3 farmers. And again, the farm work is never getting done enough. We're always shorthanded. So when we talk about meeting the working class where we are, it's like these people, even if they were going to have an organizer above our heads, that organizer should have been coming to the farm to talk to us and have a meeting with us deliberately on a weekly basis, not just occasionally showing up and being like, what's going on here?
I mean, this all could have been handled during a safety meeting.
In a safety what?
A safety meeting,
Safety
you know.
meeting.
Oh,
You
safety.
gotta take a break for safety.
Take a break for safety. Brandon, no one can hear you.
What
again.
was no? I was muted. What was the daily and weekly workflow on that project like?
Yeah.
So that
Oh
people
my-
can have like a good. I've heard you tell stories from that era.
I mean, I'm taking a break for safety right now.
I mean, if you've ever played Stardew Valley, I hate to say it, but there's some parallels. It's like you get there in the morning and you try to, before it gets hot, you try to do like a lot of the stuff that's in the direct sun, like watering and things like that. You plant new stuff if there's new stuff to plant. You pull out old stuff, you compost it, you turn your compost, you make fertilizer, you put that fertilizer on plants that need it.
You try to get your watering done before the sun gets on them.
Yeah, you don't want that sun on them, or you, either one really.
And then what comes
And-
next? Because it's a 12-hour day, you said, right?
I mean, what I'm describing is a 12-hour day already, really. Like that's the
Okay.
thing, is like it's there's just so much to if you're talking about a large field of crops and you don't have highly sophisticated equipment, the watering alone can take like 3 hours. Even with just like okay equipment or whatever.
And you're going to spend some of the day weeding, you know?
Weeding
organic
every
garden.
day.
Right.
It's, and you might do manure for 2 hours one day and then not touch it for a week, but
Yeah. But there's thinning, pruning, like a lot of plants, you gotta like remove unwanted buds so that you get like max production from the buds that you want or things like that. Grapes are this way. You remove the unnecessary shoots and buds from grapes when you're growing
How do you
them.
know a
It's
bad
really
grape
essential
shoot?
in all this to have a long dinner. Like this is where the middle meal started getting called dinner because it was that important,
Yeah, you got to stop in the middle of the day when it's hot and eat a shit ton of food. When I was farming, I was consuming like 6,000 calories a day.
Jesus.
Yeah, and like not like same physique, basically.
That's a weight loss diet when you're farming.
But, Kyle, you had a question though. I'm sorry.
Oh, how do you know a bad grape shoot?
So that's actually stuff like that is really complicated and varies a lot from plant to plant. But in
Okay.
general, what you're going to be looking for is with a lot of plants. This is a really vague analysis that, again, plants are complicated and there's so many plants. But as a really, really vague analysis, you're growing some kind of plant, like maybe tomatoes or grapes or something, and you want just certain parts of it that are the hardiest to produce and survive, basically. You're going to look for the parts. Basically, what happens with a lot of plants is that they start putting out shoots and stuff after they're established, and you just want to crush most of that if you want them to do
To focus
maximum
all the
production.
energy into the best
Think
ones.
of
Yeah.
it as
Right.
controlling which
Mhm.
part of the plant the energy or which part the plant spends energy on. Like even for squash will go crazy. Like if you don't pull points off your squash, you'll have so many squash and you'll be like, look at me, I grew like 2 squash plants and I've got more squash than I can imagine. But like
I
if
have
you
direct
pull the
experience with that
points-
exact
yeah,
thing.
yeah. If you pull the points, you'll have less but plenty good squash, great
Yeah.
squash,
To-
and that's
to-
the idea. Is tomatoes feel the same way about things.
Mhm.
Okay, we had so many
Everything
watermelons
likes a
too,
prune,
but at least they were all good.
But yeah, it makes a quality difference with a lot of that kind of stuff. And then also, I mean, there's like diseases that you have to treat plants for when you're out there
Right.
farming. You have to do treatments to try to keep everything from getting rot when it rains a lot. The actual tasks of farming change a fair bit from day to day, but it's like there's just always you always get to the end of the day and it's like there's a couple of items on the list you didn't finish is the thing too.
Back
So
in
it's
North
like
Carolina, with like extra moisture going on, like one of the bullshit sun up to sundown things you might have to do is like, well, it's been a little too rainy lately and I've got this copper oxide solution. I'm going to go out with a spray bottle and spray all of my shit that gets blight every day.
To make sure it doesn't get too damp. Right?
Yeah, just to make sure it kills the blight. And then I do that to all my tomatoes and my
every day
Mm.
for maybe
You know,
6 weeks, maybe
yeah.
8, 10.
Like hopefully not. Hopefully you can get away with just that critical period. But like, that you might not have to do that, but you got to be out there watching for it. And so yeah, farming is fantastic because it's a life, but it's a life, and this is the barrier to getting from Marx back to Bakunin.
Okay.
Now we're speaking my language.
Yeah, now we're speaking my language. Oh, Andy, I thought you were censoring that. I thought you were.
Yeah,
gonna
you
be
can't inhale on Twitch.
Let me do
You
this
can
off.
exhale.
Is
No,
that,
it's not an actual-
that sounds so stupid that I bet that's actually Twitch policy.
I just know that on network TV you can't like show anybody smoking weed. I think you can't show them exhaling.
Yes,
possibly.
that's the
It's just stupid, like,
that's the that 70s show rule. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if all they see is the exhale, then maybe I'm
could
just
be anything.
puffing fat vape clouds, bruh.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
Superhuman.
if you ever get caught, it's CBD. And
Right.
What do you mean if I ever get caught? It's legal here.
Is CBD legal federally too? Like I know.
It's murky. Like technically, it's not
Technically,
legal in Georgia, but you can literally buy it over the counter anywhere.
Yeah.
Like you can buy it at any gas station. So whatever.
Technically, Twitch's policy is that if it's legal in your state, you can smoke weed on camera.
Cool.
So I could do it.
And you're in Arizona, right?
I'm in New Mexico.
New
New
Mexico.
Mexico.
Just legalized.
It's a beautiful place, y'all. I just got out here.
Yeah, the constant battle of who's moving to what town. It's on a new paradigm all the time.
Trans women in the South, just get out. Just get out now. It's so
No.
much better here.
I should just have some trans women from the South to come down here onto this show, and you may find opposition to that theory because Atlanta's just fun to be in.
Well,
Yeah.
Atlanta's special.
Atlanta's its own nation.
First of all, it's like the least expensive LGBT city, I think.
I don't know. I think you might have to fight us for that one.
We're pretty high on the list. In fact, I did a very good tweet. There's no way that I'd be able to find it now. But I tweeted it as Atlanta DSA, and I tweeted the Britney Spears turn smiling emote. It was very funny. But they were just talking about like what's a good city to live in if you're like on a budget, and low rent, and this and that.
Low rent, Atlanta.
Yeah, compared to like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't have friends out here to crash with, I would be in Atlanta right now. You know, like I'm not gonna lie.
All right.
You have friends to crash with down.
If I will say, if it ever stops working out for me here, I probably would consider Atlanta as my first choice. But I'm so happy here, so
Just because of Brandon and probably, right?
Well,
No,
you're
Atlanta,
here
only
too,
place in the
Kyle.
South
You
I would go
count
back
as
to.
Atlanta, but
Yeah.
Rachel. I mean, we know tons of people here. I mean, Rachel's here. Everyone's here.
Yeah.
I love this one. This is like a glass ceramic.
Is that on the Beltline? Yeah.
Yes, all of these are from the Atlanta Beltline, which basically is across the I-285 perimeter around town. And some of these you just see out on the street all the time, and some of them you might not have even known was in town.
yeah.
There's tons of art. Like, what's the one that runs through Piedmont Park? It runs up to Piedmont Park. I guess that's the East Side Beltline. But
that's correct. But I am like glad that the city is not attempted to squash this stuff. I mean, obviously there are more official and less official pieces that are in town.
Have you had some battles over it though? I'm curious because like we had a real serious. I want to actually show this mural off because first of all, it's quite impressive, but it was also very much at the center of
Take over.
When we were having this just nonstop battles in city council and shit here about whether or not public like street art, like to what extent it should be accepted or things like that. This was right at the center of it. This comic book store has happily had this impressive mural for a long time.
Okay.
And the city wanted to paint over part of it.
Is it the city's building? No, right?
No, but it was for like the utility. They wanted to paint over like the utility access or something like that. Whatever. Which is like, who cares? The box is the same on the inside, whether or not the outside is painted, right?
Right.
But there was like a whole weird I can't remember all the details now, but there was a whole weird thing. And there were several shops in this area because this shop was very popularly known for its mural. It wasn't even so much this one that was the biggest issue, but there were several shops in the area that wanted to have cool street art on their buildings like this, right?
Right.
So the more that they were doing that, the more that city council was like fighting with them, in some cases literally painting over art that, the building owners had commissioned and paid for.
God.
Like it was a whole thing. And eventually the street art won, and like our mayor now is like he's like a pro street art guy for the most part, etc.
Kello, thank you.
I've talked about him before. He's the
hanging out with
mayor
us for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for coming through, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Before you leave, this one is infamous. in Atlanta on the corner of the post office. They made a little signage, and it looks like and if you're walking through that neighborhood, you see that all the time. And it's really nice. That's really
cool.
Yeah. And there's another one that I really like. Because we were talking about comics, Savage Pizza is a comic book themed place. And actually, did you know that Savage Pizza is Black owned?
I did not know.
You know now. I didn't know, because it's
really
like
cool.
It's an extremely hipster joint.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, like, if you go there, like, there's tons of comic book stuff and comic book art. It is the kind of place that has like $2 Pabst Blue Ribbon and stuff like that. But they have very good pizza. And if you've ever wanted to see a sentinel that shot pizza out of his hands instead of
I love that.
Back in freshman year, my friends and I would like go to Little 5 Points and eat pizza. Not do much of anything else because we didn't have any money.
God, I wanna go to Savage Pizza right now. I love that place. It's one of my favorite spots in town.
That looks awesome. I want to show off some other cool local art where I live. There's so much good art here. It's actually like,
and you're in Albuquerque, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to even like decide what to pick. But there's this really cool project that I want to draw attention to. There's the Fractal Foundation here. Is a group that does like math education in schools, and then they also do this really fun thing called Fractal Fridays, where you go to the planetarium and they put on like some like fake Pink Floyd music, and like fractals come on the screen, and occasionally they give you like a science fact here and there, so you kind of feel like, yeah, I learned stuff when I was there. I definitely didn't just show up super high to watch fractals for an hour.
That would be very bad and very wrong.
But they also sponsor the creation of these large artworks that go around the city.
That's a good one, yeah.
That are these like large fractal artworks. And actually each one of these is designed by students, like kids in school.
It seems hard to paint because you got to be so mathematical about it.
Oh, it's not painted; it's just printed. But it's still this cool thing because they put these huge banners up all over town all the time. I'm gonna pull up another one that are just like I said, it's fractals designed by kids in school that get to be a part of their programs, etc. And then like they just show up all over town, these huge fractals, and there's like dozens of them. It's very fun, and it's also like, it ties into something educational, so I have to appreciate that.
What is that on the side of? Is that a private residence, or is that a store, or what is that?
I think that one is a UNM building, maybe. I can't tell for sure though.
What's UNM? Oh, the school.
Oh, the college. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is the stream where I just teach you about Albuquerque.
I would love, literally, forget public policy. We can just literally talk about the cool things.
No, but actually,
a big
part of the reason that I live here is because of public policy. So I think it's actually kind of interesting to talk about some of this stuff, because there's a lot of things that Albuquerque has chosen public policy-wise that are important to me, like good public transit, bicycle friendly.
I have heard of Albuquerque as being a pretty good bike city.
We actually have the most bicycle commuters per capita of any city. Fuck you, Portland.
Really this is from the bathroom at Savage Pizza.
Ooh.
It's classic comic book episodes and art and stuff. No, it's super rad. All right.
I can actually. Well, this is in the future, but eventually I'd like to do a report back, because I'm going to a MARTA meeting on the 27th about extending the streetcar. So it's not just a fucking tourist ride around downtown Atlanta.
Is that not good enough for you?
No, it is not. It's every time I pass it, I barely see anybody on it. I would like to see people actually using it, then not just we've made it to Atlanta. We're here at 5 Points, and we're just gonna kind of go around and see what we can get. I have my own problems with like loop transit versus just point to point, but what can you do?
Yeah. They've been talking about making public transit free here, and they actually demoed a little bit of that during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that, like, I don't understand why that's not considered a more reasonable option for cities to just provide free public transit as a service to the city.
Same here. During COVID, the buses were free because they didn't have any sort of sanitation set up in the front or any shields, so they just had people board at the back. So de facto free. Still had to pay for the trains, but I did like people riding the buses. The buses were packed every time I went on, and not saying that they're not now, but it would be nice. I think MARTA makes too much of its revenue from fares for that to be like right now for that to be.
Yeah, MARTA does not
plan.
Get the state and federal support structures.
Absolutely.
Our rent, our fares are ridiculously high. It's like $2.50 to ride.
Right. And New York is $2.75, so we're for a much more comprehensive.
And you can get off anywhere in New York, you know.
Right.
In Atlanta, you've got to ride a bus because we have this overwrought, overcomplicated train system.
Let me tell you what's actually ridiculous is that there's federal funds that are just sitting on the table unclaimed every year that if cities' ridership would reach certain levels per like number of people living there, they would qualify for. And a lot of cities don't qualify for right now. Guess what would bring up your ridership? Making public transit free. Yeah. So like here, they don't even hardly make any money off the fee system. Like the whole system of collecting fees costs them so much money that like on a slow year, it breaks even basically. So like, you know, and there's other, you would actually be surprised how many cities that's true for. They act like they got to collect these fees, but actually if they went feeless and increased their number of riders, the federal government would give your city more money to fund its public transit. And you could just have free public transit. And if your city isn't talking about this, call your city councilors and ask them why they're not thinking about this.
Yeah, sales tax is 58% of MARTA, and fare revenue is 22%.
22%? That's not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to just be able to imagine how much better things would be. Just for people who have to, I mean, Kyle, you know, people have got to travel across town to get to their jobs. Like, and you know,
currently awful if you're not like next to a train station.
Yeah, and it costs money like that. Those dollar amounts really add up over a week. If you're spending like $5 a day to go to your job and come back, and then suddenly it's like $100 a month. And that's money that you could be spending on, I mean, name it, a utility bill.
I see like $5 a day, you know, 5 days a week, 4 weeks. Yeah, you're right. You did the math already. I'm slow. Excuse me, I'm slow.
Listen.
Let me tell you something fucked up about the train here while we're talking about, because like there's a lot of things I do like, but our train is just okay. Our public transit train, like it needs to do more and it needs to be cheaper. But here's the really fucked up thing about the train is that it is everything about its fee structure is explicitly designed for the wealthiest people that use it, and it's really obvious. Because if you take the train north to Santa Fe, it costs you twice as much than to take it south to Belen. It's the same distance roughly.
I'm afraid to ask, how do they even justify that?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question because it's not a huge difference in distance. The only difference is the number of stops. There's more stops on the more expensive side, which that doesn't even necessarily make sense.
Stops are not more expensive. Maybe they would say it's like subsidy for construction of stations or something like that.
So let me just tell you the most messed up part about this. I used to have a job in Belen while I was living here a couple of years ago. And so I'm taking the train to Belen every day because that's the most cost-effective thing for me to do. And also, Christina and I only have one reliable car, etc. So, which is something I've talked about plenty of times. And just, you know, how being poor in transit is a fucking nightmare sometimes. But anyway, so I walk I just want to talk about my life for a second, actually, because you fuckers don't even understand sometimes. I would walk to the train station 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. You know, sometimes it's hot as hell. I get on the train ride 45 minutes. I go work for like 9-10 hours doing construction. And then same thing in reverse, take the train back and walk back. Sometimes our schedules would align and Christina could pick me up from the train station on the way home. And that was my only relief.
How many miles was the train station from home?
Oh, sorry, what?
How many miles was the train station from home?
You know, I'll just look it up.
Transportation is super bad, and if you miss your bus by like 5 minutes, it's the worst thing in the world, having to sit and wait on the next bus.
Right, like frequency is another thing that could really improve ridership. I know it's like a chicken and the egg situation.
Yeah, of course.
You're like, oh, we don't have the ridership to justify more frequency, but
well, this is one of those things that, I mean, evenly subtly impacts how class can affect your education, right? Like, you know, in a college town, if you're taking the bus, you might miss class. If your roommate can drop you off, you won't, you know?
What weird name did they give the downtown transit station? Why do cities always got to rename shit like that? They're like, the downtown transit center doesn't sound good enough. Let's call it the Gaboobablex Center for Positive Vibes in Rides.
Wait, no, I love that though.
Great name, and if they did that, they'd be better off. I think it's because they don't want it to be associated with the people that used to live there. You know.
Does Sparta have any weird station names?
Yeah, Bankhead used to be. Donald Lee Hollowell used to be Bankhead.
It's still Bankhead, isn't it?
No.
I swear to God, no. Wait,
No. Hightower is now Hamilton E. Holmes.
Yeah.
There's shit like that all across
to the train station from where I lived at the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to finally get that fact out there.
Okay. Yeah.
How far away was it?
1.5 miles. So on top of doing construction as my job, I was walking 3 miles every day. I was really fit.
Yeah, no, I've definitely been there and done that. Of going and having to walk to get to the bus.
We're positioning our shitty transit as an anti-obesity campaign.
That's right. That's right. And what blew my mind, one of the things that gave me a little bit of relief when I made a little more money was the little bird scooters or whatever. And you could, drag around a scooter that was in the neighborhood and drive to a bus stop or drive to maybe all the way to the train station if you wanted to. But of course, first of all, people were just getting them and tearing them up.
Right. Or they leave them in the street or over the sidewalk, and that's not a good accessibility.
Yeah, like Kyle, we had those scooters were everywhere in Atlanta like a year and a half ago.
Still are, but not as much as it was like.
No, yeah, those things had taken. Oh,
they were all over.
They were everywhere here too at that same time, and they're just gone now. I swear I couldn't tell you where to find one.
Consolidated and split, and now you gotta have like 5 or 6 different apps just to use them. But more than that, yeah, they were fucking everywhere. And my campus had
cost like as much as an Uber. Can we talk about that?
The price was always like off the wall, but the reason why they thought that idea was profitable, and maybe it just turns out that it wasn't making money, and that was the core thing. The last mile, because they know that public transportation is not super good, and that like people have to still drive that last, like Kennedy, an extra mile from their bus stop to actually getting home.
And they're hoping that's worth $3 for you.
Yeah, and they're hoping that's worth really more like $4.75. Like if you're exhausted. But like I said, people were tearing them up. Some people were taking them, and also like people were going out without helmets and like getting hit.
Yeah, they banned them, I think, for like a year after dark. Like, so that was, I think, the beginning of the end for Atlanta. They banned them after sunset because a tourist came and was driving in the street and got hit by a bus.
But also, like, it's really messed up because the time that you wanted, you're not allowed to say this. The time that you wanted those things was after bus service. Like, if you were out doing something and then, you know, it's 12:30, how am I going to get home? You know what I mean?
Because our shitty bus stops at 1 a.m.
The bus is over, but the train might still be running.
Maybe.
So my choices are to either be back by the time that the buses stop running, or I can, you know, take this device.
But of course, it's locked until 6 a.m. So.
Yeah, so like now it's screwed up. You have no desire to use it.
There is a better solution to this personal mobility thing, and I can't remember which senator proposed this, but you know, he was proposing like a tax credit for electric bikes.
Sure. Oh well, that would be nice.
And as the owner of an electric bike, I can say this definitely, 100%. They're great.
How is an electric bike making you happier? I guess it's solving your last mile program. Your last mile problem.
It's also a last mile problem. For a lot of shorter trips, you know, it solves the all miles problem.
Yeah.
To just get around town.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this is more of a philosophical thing, I guess, about transit individualism versus transit collectivism. But I think, you know, bikes and buses can coexist, especially since you can just hook a bike onto the front of a bus if you really need to go somewhere.
Right.
And
I mean, that in my ideal socialist utopia, it would be basically all bikes and buses, and then you just go borrow a truck or car when you need one from like the community lot.
What if I need one because I don't want to be around other people and they're gross?
You don't have to be around other people on a bike.
Well, Brandon, you know, I happen to kind of feel a certain way about antisocial socialism, which is that can't work.
What if I want a pod? What if I want a pod?
I feel a little differently. You can have some of those like French oil crisis cars from the 70s. They're like a tiny cube and go 30 miles per hour max. You can have that. Absolutely. No air conditioning.
No air conditioning. I agree with that.
In Atlanta, that's. I think there are people who would probably attempt to put up with it. They cheat. First of all, those people are forming their own city of Buckhead. They defending their right to drive and pollute.
How's the bike lane situation in Albuquerque, Kennedy? Because I was just in New York, and oh my God, it's a biker's paradise there. I didn't get a chance to bike, but all the bike lanes and one-way streets, actual separation, like concrete barriers. How is it in Albuquerque? It's pretty dismal here.
I would say it's better than a lot of places, but in some ways it still has a ways to go. Certain routes are really good, and like you'll hardly ever have to be around cars. When you are around cars, you'll have your own lanes and you'll have your own stuff. But it just kind of varies. There's definitely an aspect to which like some of the best bike lanes exist in the most gentrified parts of town. But that's not entirely true because there are a lot of bicycle commuters here, like I said. And so a lot of people have pushed for, hey, we need a trail for bikers to get from here to here so that, you know, people can get to work or whatever. And like a lot of that stuff has gotten done, especially in the last few years. By which I really mean like 10, but yeah, like, cause you know, building the bike lane, that's not something you do in a day usually. But yeah, there's some parts of it that really, really need to be improved and are still kind of pathetic. And there's some parts of town that are still really poorly serviced. But like overall, it's really good. And like they've really made the effort, like I said, that there's a lot of routes that you can take where you aren't really interacting with traffic that much. And that's the best. That's the fucking bomb.
There are some routes here that are like that. Just bi-directional separated bike lanes that are really nice. Very few and far between, though. Good.
Yeah,
I got you.
All I'm saying is that shit rules, and
Mhm.
like all of those are awesome. Everyone loves them, and like every city should have an entire network of those that's like at least 75% as comprehensive as your roads.
Mhm.
yeah. I would say it's not that comprehensive, but definitely there are certain parts of town that are doing like a really good job with bike lanes and that kind of access.
Yeah, personally,
Those
I think
are
it's a
public-
crime that the Peachtree isn't like more suited for bikes, because going down there and you just squeeze between parked cars and cars going 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be doing some sort of complete streets test on Peachtree, and I don't know when that's rolling out though.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Mhm.
I would say that super like excites me. Being able to like just, and we talked about this with Mariah, just being in a setting where you're not being demanded to spend money to like participate in society is always
Right.
good. With the like, we talked about like there being a controversy because people are hanging out on the corner, and it's like, yeah, you should want to be in a town where you should want to be able to hang out on the corner
Right.
and
Yeah.
Like
maybe buy a pizza or something, but not have to spend money.
like the whole thing of loitering and how it ties into hostile architecture, like
Mhm.
building spaces that people don't want to exist in is not a solution to crime.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit more, because I would love to hear from both of you about some of your visions for ideal, and you too, Amy. Now that I just, I didn't even realize you were there until you leaned back, and then it was like a. But I'd love to hear from everybody about like your visions about like ideal free public spaces. Because I think we really need to envision new things in this regard. Like we need whole new types of free public spaces. In my
I feel
opinion.
like
And we also need to improve some of the existing ones. So go ahead.
I feel like the ideal public spaces can't exist for the same reason why the IRS can't just tell you your tax results. And there's just a powerful lobby that like wants to keep those things that are for profit to be at least relevant, because if these spaces were taken by the public, they just
What's a for-profit public space, though? I mean, these public spaces could be pitched as a
That's a
boon to
mall.
like,
business.
Yeah, a mall.
bookstores,
Bookstore.
malls, gyms. Like, why aren't gyms owned by the public? Why can't you just go there and get your set in and stuff like that? Well, there are other gyms that exist for money, and it's hard to compete with free.
Are there people who hang out in malls? I know this always feels like an 80s and 90s thing to me. As I grew up around a bunch of like dyke malls or just not very interesting malls, and it was never a place to go and hang out. First of all, there's nowhere to sit. All you could do is stand and shop.
Well,
But that didn't used to be that way. See, even malls have gotten more hostile. Malls used to have.
If Lindsay were here, she would be outraged that we were talking so positively about malls, probably for the reasons that Kyle points out. I mean, malls, we all feel nostalgia for malls because
I do not feel nostalgia for malls.
Well, our age bracket, that's where you would, that was our Amazon, right? That was where you would go to
God, that's
buy.
depressing.
Yeah, that's where you would go to
That's
buy.
where you got everything, yeah.
And look at stuff. It's also where you would go to look at stuff. Remember that, like, we had the internet, but the internet was kind of shitty. Like, bandwidth, like, that was still an era where it was cool to be able to, like, go to a place that smelled nice with your friends and, like, physically look at stuff or see how it would look on you. And, like, that experience of, like, browsing for products that now you can just do on your phone and, like, I'm looking for something cool. Like, it was, like, the curated space to do that.
Well, until like very, very recently, like you're saying with the online spaces.
Amy, talk up or turn up your mic.
Until very, very recently, with online spaces, like there were very few places in rural areas besides a mall that you could go to see and be seen, especially
the Walmart.
You
Yeah,
know,
there
a
were
lot of-
spots
a lot of
where
rural
like the
counties are
Walmart
dry,
was.
you know, it's tough getting around, and there's only like 1 or 2 places you can go if you're underage.
Yeah.
That's true. That's fair.
Well, let's.
And I don't want to just
But I think
completely.
there should be something better than malls. Like,
Yeah,
to
to be clear, I don't want to completely nostalgize malls. They have plenty of problems. And like, I love online shopping in a lot of ways, but there definitely was a nice aspect to just like that social shopping with your friends. Like, what do y'all think? Do you like this shirt on me? Do you think this is a good quality blender? Whatever bullshit. I don't know. But it was
shout out to
just
any ex-goth kids
Do-
out
do you
there.
read-
It was the place you went to shock people, right? We all remember that.
And the original designer, the original person behind malls, Victor Gruen, he envisioned them as more than like shopping palaces, but as a sort of indoor-outdoor community space. So that's not really too far off.
Well, let's stumble in the dark here. What are spaces what are good public spaces? I think of, I mean, it's a little bit corny, but like mixed development, a good variety of like places to buy stuff, but also like spaces to not buy stuff, spaces for cultural events, spaces for community events. There are like Atlantic Station, I consider like a really nice, intentionally designed space in Atlanta. The Smyrna Town Hall area is really nice. It's like shops, but it's also fountains and a park and a library. Like there's a big library and you can take the stairs up into the library and you can climb the steps and then you can look down at all of the center of town from the library. It's pretty nice. Yeah.
I think we're ignoring one of the best public spaces that's right under our feet, and it's streets.
Like streets in general, or is there a specific street? Like
streets in general. Yeah. I mean,
You're
close them
talking
off
about, like, the
to
Oriental
traffic.
street rather than the automobile-centric street, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get into that.
I see what you mean.
Or if you must, like I know there's a concept for some streets in Amsterdam, which is like limit cars to biking or pedestrian speed, but mix them in with the bikes and pedestrians. If you absolutely must, I'm taking a strong anti-car stance.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cars are bad. Down with cars. I'm not even being ironic. Like
cars bad, trains good.
Yeah. There's so a couple of friends of mine went to Leeds for a while. They're doing like a scholarship exchange program thing, and they said the weather in the UK isn't nice very much. So when there'd be a really nice day, smaller streets would kind of shut down, and like shops would like take some of their wares outside, or like restaurants would like move some tables and chairs outside and like put them in the street, because when you have like almost constant rain and then the weather is suddenly really nice, everybody wants to go out and do shit, right? So it makes more sense in that environment to say, hey, these streets belong to the pedestrians who are going to fucking spend money. Cars don't spend money.
They don't. Well, I mean, Herbie, the VW bug, I believe, bought a joint or two in the day. But generally speaking, cars do not spend money.
Right. People walking around, though, spend money. So it's actually kind of ironic.
Get thirsty.
We're talking about how it's important to have these spaces that you don't have to pay for, but ironically, they would benefit a lot of these. How many people's downtowns be failing lately? Or like, whatever cultural district or whatever part of town used to be the like, this is where everything happens, is like dying. How many people's cities is having this problem? Because I feel like it's like everywhere.
We used to have underground Atlanta, and it's downtown, and it's a total abject disaster.
Right.
And they've been constantly trying to retweak, recuperate, rebuild, just for a long time.
You go to downtown Albuquerque, it used to be awesome to hang out in downtown Albuquerque. Now it's all wall-to-wall cars, no people. And you ought to just shut down all those streets in downtown for car traffic. Just fucking end it all. The car traffic just stops when you hit downtown, and the people get to walk around for a couple of blocks. You have any idea what that would actually do to fix these fucking economies? I don't know why I'm trying to fix the capitalist problems for them, but like it's like they can't even think of this shit for themselves for some reason.
Well,
I was watching a video.
mean,
This is like really good transit YouTuber Alexandra Big Mood Energy. She was mentioning just how the limited visibility of a car going down like a main street or revitalized main street or something like that. Just you cannot see the shops. It's actively harmful to the goals of the project.
Yeah,
it's occurring to me that the since we're taking an anti-car stance, that if the cars weren't there, a lot of the last mile solutions we've been talking about would suddenly be completely viable, right? Man, if I could just drive this scooter in the street and not have to worry about tourists getting themselves killed.
Okay,
Right,
go ahead. You go ahead, Kyle, first.
No, there's nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, can we talk about a wild compromise between no cars and some cars?
Can there be one car?
That like a lot of people aren't ready to hear, but is some real shit.
Is it ring roads?
There are some places in Europe, particularly in the Netherlands. There's one civil designer in particular whose name I'm forgetting right now, who's been leading this, where they're getting rid of their street lights and signs. And you know what it does? It makes people fucking behave themselves better, because it turns out when you see these like lights and signs and shit all around you telling you what to do,
you go into
turn your
autopilot.
fucking brain off.
Yes.
And so then when a bicyclist is in front of you, you suddenly like sometimes don't know what to do, because it doesn't, you're like everything is supposed to just happen. A light's supposed to come on, a sign's supposed to tell me that this is happening. And it leads to a lot of accidents and stuff. And so what they found is that when you take the street lights and signs out and you redesign the streets to be more pedestrian friendly in general, and you just force the cars to fucking figure it out, that in general traffic's not really worse, and that the number of accidents per year goes down.
Right, because first of all, stoplights and stop signs aren't
the sample? What's the size of that group? Was it taking over a city? Like how much of a, you know what I mean?
Hold on, this is something I haven't had to think about this for a long time. Give me 1 sec.
I got an article here if you need it, but yeah, but saying stoplights and stop signs aren't really even very efficient at what they do in comparison to like a roundabout. So there's already that, and I know something else that they do in the Netherlands is that they shrink the streets, because if you're on a very narrow road, you're going to drive more carefully than you would on a big, wide American boulevard.
Also, if you give the pedestrians more sidewalk, they're less likely to go into the car place.
Exactly.
I feel like that
be a pedestrian place like in the old days,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I think that for a while it'll be like easier to get people to drive safer, because with the shock of not having the lights there, I think people are more paying attention, because it's something that's been ingrained into them since birth, is to obey the lights for safety. But I do worry that it would come back to the mean after enough time. And enough people
you gotta change the streets too.
No, it goes.
Yeah. You gotta.
If you're worried about accidents eventually going back up, it's the opposite. What happens when you take the lights and signs out is that fatal accidents go up for a few years. And then accidents go down.
I see. That's better. I mean, look.
And we're not talking about a huge
that's the
increase.
long-term
We're talking
change
about a
that we
small increase for like 1 or 2 years while people figure it out. So it's not that people will go back to old habits. They have to completely unlearn the habits, and it takes a little time.
I
Is really
see.
more of the
So
vibe. As far as I know, this hasn't been done in any like large cities yet, just like mostly small towns in the Netherlands and Germany. But it's been successful where it has been done. And
I want to know.
I kind of think this could be the future of some stuff potentially.
I
Like,
want to know who ran for mayor in that sleepy German town, and their platform was like traffic lights. Don't
Well,
really need them. I feel like there was like an Andrew Yang of Germany.
but actually,
Doesn't this seem like an
hold
Andrew
on.
Yang policy?
Germany's
Just like-
pretty used to roads without traffic lights with the Autobahn.
Yeah.
I mean, not the same thing at all. Very much not the
Right,
same thing.
right, of
But,
course. In Europe, they do have a little more faith in the maturity of the average person.
Here's in Amsterdam, the Urban Cycling Institute at the university. So they removed the traffic lights from an intersection, then asked 200 bicyclists their feelings. I think the majority of them said that it was chaotic or messy, and 80% of them responded that traffic lights were necessary. But then by the end of the pilot, they interviewed another 150 bicyclists, and 60% of them said the intersection worked better without traffic lights. So,
Wow. Abolish traffic lights.
was it Hans Monderman you were thinking of, Kennedy?
Yeah, Monderman,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yep. That's the guy. He was the first one to really start pushing for this, and a lot of people were like, "What are you talking about?" But then he started trying it, and it started working, and so then people had to start being willing to give it more of a chance. But yeah, Hans Monderman, that's the guy. Yeah, it's definitely it's this really interesting thing. It's funny though, you mentioned like who was the mayor that did this. I actually think this is one of those things that like we talk about occasionally, how like someone could just run on like certain wildly popular things that people don't think about enough, and like probably just like get elected somewhere. Like I feel like if someone went to like a small town where people are like grumpy and want things to like go back to like a better, simpler time, and you're like, I'm running for mayor and I'm gonna get rid of these fucking traffic lights. We don't need all this modern bullshit. I feel like people would actually be like, yeah.
We have a mayoral candidate that would come on our show. We can get Alex Barella on the show, and we can just like launch all of our crackpot policies at Alex. It's funny.
It's not a sleepy town, but this is kind of the platform, or at least part of the platform Anne Hidalgo ran on in Paris.
Yeah.
With open streets and car reduction, things like that.
Yeah, so I mean, this idea is starting to take off in various forms in larger places. It just hasn't. There's not like a stoplight list city yet, But are there some cities that are like taking nods to this and like changing their neighborhoods? Yeah, I mean, shit. My city has taken some lights out and replaced them with roundabouts in the last few years. It confuses people at first, but it's good in the long run.
One of my friends asked me, as we're here on the show, to mention that a lot of our discussions on mobility in inner cities is from the perspective of an able-bodied person. Our like ability to like get on a bike and pump and pedal, or get on the bus and stand, like traveling can always be like a little bit difficult when you are like disabled. I always think of buses. I mean, Atlanta has like a really good mobility program. In fact,
all the buses, Neil, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. We've actually gotten Atlanta. This is a cool thing. They will pick you up. They'll get a bus and will drive you like where you've got to go if you qualify like for the right paperwork and the right plan.
That's the MARTA mobility, right? I see that.
Correct.
I see the van all over.
Yeah. That's MARTA mobility. And they will take you directly there. It costs more than a regular MARTA. Like it's like $8. But still, if you've got like a medical thing that you've got to go to and you like physically can't do it and you qualify, of course, then that's pretty useful.
Brandon, do you know if that's covered by insurance? Anything?
Listen.
Sometimes it's covered by some programs here. I know for our ABQ ride, which is similar.
I'll do that.
But here's what I know about that kind of stuff too, is that like the problem that we have here is that every piece of public transit that was added more recently than 20 years ago is accessible, but you know what I'm saying? So like if that stop hasn't been updated in a long time, or if that bus hasn't been updated in a long time, and things like that, there's still places where we're lagging behind. It is like definitely something like I am really glad to see like our newest buses are like rapid transit electric buses that are highly accessible and have a lot of good features in general. But why aren't we making the push to make all of our buses like that? Why do we still have poor communities that have these ancient buses that aren't handicap accessible, that fucking burn diesel like crazy? You know what I mean? Like, that's messed up.
And all of Atlanta's trains are accessible, I believe, but the stations are a different matter. Just because there's at least like 3 with an elevator out at any given time. I'm just gonna check on the app because I can see.
Yeah, listen, I want to read the platform of Alex Barella, who's a mayoral candidate.
Oh, go ahead.
Because Alex is a creative thinker and an artist who's running for the office, and you may want to hear Alex's transportation policies. Fix these roads and sidewalks. If we make ownership, building, and maintenance of our transportation pathways public, then the only ones we could blame for potholes and the like is ourselves. As long as people follow safety guidelines, I see no harm in open sourcing or letting anyone take a crack at the construction and maintenance of the next generation of our roads and byways. Envision and construct highways, foot traffic and low-speed vehicle accessways above main roadways, and more tunnels where there are inaccessibilities like trains and trees. Bury and shield city wiring to protect it from damage and us from exposure to harmful radiations. We currently have way too many places where there's zero or inadequate sidewalk coverage. I foresee 100% roadways having top-notch sidewalk on both sides, and each traffic light needs a page on a web service where a person can petition reprogramming instructions that are checked by public workers to allow measurable, targetable, and perceivable problems to be documented and corrected. No more waiting at red lights for ghost cars to pass by. Wow.
No,
that's a creative solution.
But can we scoot back up to the top real quick? There was something about taking ownership of.
Yeah, Alex wants to crowdsource road repairs as long as you are following safety guidelines. I don't know who would oversee who's following the safety guidelines, but like I imagine
sounds
that.
Like I just don't want to pay for it. Almost, I'm not sure. Like I want to hear some.
Yeah, I feel mixed on that because on the one hand,
I'm okay with.
On the one hand, I would love to take a few buckets of gravel to our little road here and fix it up. And technically, I'm not supposed to do that. So getting rid of the legal limitations that prevent me from just dumping some gravel on our driveway would be kind of nice. But on the other hand,
I don't really want that. I don't really want some Yahoo like mixing up tar.
Load of gravel to spread myself.
Yeah, are they gonna? Yeah, they should be bringing the gravel over here, maybe, and paying for it or something still, or some. I don't.
Maybe we should get Alex B on the show. Y'all can talk about who's paying for this gravel.
Who's paying for this gravel?
Who's paying for this? My tax dollars are paying for gravel.
Country girls are paying so much attention to the gravel. Who's paying for this?
Also on Alex's platform is, to quote, make anime real. Would you like that part of the platform, Rick?
I do like that a lot, yeah.
Wait,
all right. From the platform.
Okay, yeah, let's get into it, Kyle. I'm asking the real questions here.
Right.
Let's really dig into this. Who's paying for this gravel? I'm going to share from Alex Barella's platform page. Make anime real. Atlanta's creative scene is, like most of our society, tainted by capitalistic flaws. Artists and their work require the support of our community, but right now there are major roadblocks for many beautiful works to be showcased and distributed. Most of the content we watch is supported by ad revenue, a model which prices out individuals from equitable access to screen time only media conglomerates can afford, as well as makes this content inherently profit-driven rather than content-driven, which is extremely yuck and suck with regards to quality and bias. If we establish a public production house to create art media, promoting city programs, safety bulletins, as well as whatever else citizens wanted to produce, we would be seriously amplifying lots of voices and raising Atlanta's vibrational cosmic energies and power levels way up.
So
Right now-
he's talking about like a public
Yes,
media fund. Yeah.
public
Okay.
access. Yeah. Right now,
when
our
I
city.
saw that there was actual text after this bullet point, I was like, I don't know, but it's starting to win me over.
Right.
We need to raise the vibrational cosmic energies. That's important.
Oh yeah.
Right now, I'm going to ask every mayoral candidate what their position is on Atlanta's vibrational cosmic energies. That's just the fact. And if you live in Atlanta, you know there is some media production, and it's not it's actually not terrible. Like, it's pretty good. But I do like the idea of just letting it.
Can we get into like the press circle at the mayoral debates and ask them about their like favorite rocks?
Also,
Yeah.
that language
Yeah.
makes me think this guy needs to be vetted for connections to Scientology, frankly.
I don't think Alex has any connections to Scientology. Alex is a. I've never met Alex.
I think we should get every mayoral candidate we can on the show and ask them, what are you going to do to raise the vibrational cosmic energy of your city?
Mm-hmm.
Our new segment.
When was Atlanta
Scientology.
officially incorporated? Like, can we get the exact date and time so we can plug it into CoStar?
Oh gosh. Hey, I'd like to read one more. Excerpt from an Alex Press. Whatever.
By all means, this
The
is
show,
fascinating.
honestly.
I wish to develop.
It's good
I wish
content.
to develop. Yeah, I know. This is literally. We could have had Alex on when we launched the show. Alex is just a person that we know. But
Shit.
I wish
Alright,
to
talk shit.
invent and deploy a working honey gun. Envision years back wherein hostile, deadly situations involving firearms can be solved by a device which would squirt high-velocity warm syrup a long range to clog up threatening mechanisms and debilitate spiritually with abject sweet stickiness. This would unfortunately be a solution which would take some time for development to get right, but such solutions where we seek to defeat violence with nonviolence, I believe, to be the way to go, to promote a society which demonstrably, undeniably values ongoing humane living for everyone. No guns, but foam ones. Alex Varela.
That was hot.
Alex is.
I would love to be involved in the development. It's very tricky to get the temperature of the honey right. You don't want any like third-degree
It's
honey.
got to be
first.
hot enough that once that hot honey hits you, you're like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
going
But
home.
you don't want to make sweet napalm.
Right. You don't want it to like kill you.
Plus, it gets
You
all-
just want it to be like a
It-
firm deterrent.
It really can't be doing more than first-degree burns.
Yeah,
I've actually heard that cold water is better for getting honey off your sheets and stuff.
Mm.
Oh,
All right.
God.
People eating honey in bed, or
if you get honey gunned,
Mhm.
Yeah, try a cold wet towel instead of.
First of all, people are gonna adopt it as a social stigma, as like a cool thing. Like if you are a rap artist in Atlanta, you will be walking around just like, yeah, man, the honey's all on me.
pouring honey on yourself.
Yeah, man. I'm like, man, I'm just going through streets trying to do my thing, and they just hit me with the honey.
I'm just imagining a TikTok where some Zoomer's like, fuck 5-0, and then just the honey just starts to pour.
I might want to get.
I love it. I like it. I want some more of it.
Winnie the Pooh becomes the new mascot against police brutality. Actually, we can do that now. We can do that now.
do that now. Here's the thing. Your
President G?
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff because
You're already pissing off President G. Now you're adding police brutality protests. But actually, maybe G would support this as a way to get the heat off of him.
I think G would hate the honey gun
Oh, yeah.
because he's clearly very sensitive about this Winnie the Pooh thing.
Oh yeah, if we were to honey gun President G.
President G, please come and raise my city's vibrational energy.
What does President Xi think about Hong Kong's cosmic vibrational energy right now?
I mean, I usually don't see
y'all are
people
off the
use their
wall.
honey gun until like a few more subscribers ding in, you know.
We should plug ourselves.
We should plug ourselves.
We should, like, it's incredible. We tie all this conversation about like corporate media. We sat up here and talked for 2.5 hours, just totally free, just totally vibing. But good, exciting, empowering. Patreon.com/notsafe. Twitch.tv/notsafemedia.
Yeah.
You just become a part of our world. Our Patreon kind of sucks, but we make just great content. We've got audio coming out today.
Listen, we just make it clear at this point, our Patreon isn't very good. You
Yeah.
support us because we're independent media, and Patreon's a platform to do that.
Do you have like mugs?
No, we're bad at merch. Merch is
We're-
hard.
We're working on it.
You got a very pretty
You're
logo.
paying for the idea.
We have an incredible logo.
Thank you. I designed that logo, so I will bask in that. Thank you.
Yeah, I struggled a long time with that logo, and my concepts were not cool. They were not the one. But I don't remember how we settled on the tarot card. I think I was just playing with weird mystical stuff.
We just kept talking about the idea of the tarot card theme, and then we started talking about the tower in particular. And I just got like super high one morning and was inspired.
Mhm.
And I just remember I messaged you guys in the Not Safe for Wonks Discord, and I was like, "Hey,
Here it is." And it
hey, I might be onto something for the logo."
But it's just really nice. I like the purple. I like the red.
yeah, it looks like I think the color scheme might have been mine. I think we wanted it to look like a Kanye album. We wanted it to look just very big and iconoclastic.
Mhm.
And it's a nice logo. Like it is, it is all those things.
We talked
I'd buy-
about
I'd buy a
Kanye's
hat
albums
or
a
a
lot while
pin.
we were doing the branding.
We wanted it to be iconic. We wanted it to be, you look at it and it's what it is as soon as you look at it.
My beautiful dark twisted wonkery.
Yeah,
Put that on a
exactly.
shirt. Put that on a shirt. What are you doing? Come on. Put that on a shirt.
Literally, what are we doing is a great question, Kyle, and I
I-
thank you for asking.
I ask all that all the time. Listen, your Patreon dollar at work, send us some more money. We'll make some better shirts and get all that stuff sorted. Do y'all want to talk more? Do you want me to play a video about parks and public spaces? That's kind of cool.
Sure.
What do y'all want to tune it down for the evening? What's up?
Can we take a quick break?
Let's take a break, and we'll see you guys in a good minute. We'll see you soon.
right.
Bye. Back. Bye back. Hey, so this isn't a plug. I just want to show something that I'm working on. And it is for Juneteenth. And it is like a little poster that I put together. We're doing Juneteenth with Coalition for the People's Agenda. and Black Voters Matter. It's going to
exactly 1 month.
Say what?
In exactly 1 month.
Yeah, in exactly 1 month, which means we've got to start hauling behind on it. But this is the a little poster that we've got going on. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
And when we show this to the community, they're going to be really intensely hyped about it. Because like I said at the top of the show before you got here, Kyle, like some of those folks don't know how to do social media promo and graphics and stuff like that. And
this is your bag. This is your job.
Yeah, so it helps. It's going to be a little. We were supposed to be watching Blowback. I forgot that it was scheduled at the same time as the general meeting because we were talking about moving to the afternoon. But you know, DSA runs during the general meeting once a month. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure that out. But anyway, we're back. Hello, Kennedy.
Hey.
You got any plans for celebrating this month, this summer? What are you looking forward to?
Say it again, sorry.
What are you looking forward to this summer? Just things you want to do, people you want to meet, stuff you want to experience.
I want to go to some concerts again.
Man, let me tell you.
It's funny because it's like, I feel like there would have been other times in my life you could ask that question. I would have had like pretty specific answers. But right now I feel like my bar is pretty low. Like, I was saying like last time we streamed, like I just kind of want to go outside and do stuff, period. So like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff though. I love food festivals. I've mentioned that before, I think.
Oh yeah.
On the show, that's like one of my favorite things to do is like go to a festival where there's like a bunch of restaurants and food trucks and stuff all like giving out samples of their shit or whatever, or like things like that. Also, I mean, there's just like a lot of my favorite events here have been like at a standstill. One of my favorite things is the Children's Science Museum here does a night for adults only, and you can like wander around drinking beer, fucking with all the children's science shit, and like they have like live music and stuff. And I've just really missed things like that. And some of that stuff is like maybe coming back over the next couple of months, and I want to do that sort of thing.
My answer is pretty simple. My birthday, June 10th.
Woo!
Turning 21, so finally.
Your birthday is June 10th?
Happy birthday.
Yes, same as Rachel.
Happy early birthday.
No. Rachel's is the 9th.
Oh, well, yeah, right after Rachel. Sorry.
Yeah, but
she's 6'9".
Yeah. No, we're doing
that's perfect.
we're doing that trestle tree thing on the 10th, so that'll be your birthday party as well.
Oh, hey, cool.
Yeah. Free food.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to, you know, stuff that happens every year. Pride.
And finally, I'll be able to buy alcohol, so my tweets will be good.
I want to say that I'm looking forward to Juneteenth for woke reasons, but I live in New Mexico and it's actually not a thing here.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Like it's something like the mayor will mention it. You know what I mean?
Well, you've got to find you can make your own Juneteenth, you know? Is it just there's nobody in town that's like, I want to do Juneteenth?
Maybe we should just do Juneteenth.
That like New Mexico is like 2% black people. I'm not kidding. That's
Yeah.
I'm being 100%.
No, that doesn't sound like an exaggeration. That
So
doesn't
it's
sound
just
like
like the kind of
something made
thing
up.
where like things like that don't tend to get turned into big events. And some years there have been a couple of orgs that have like made a point of like coming together with like specifically like black led orgs to like make Juneteenth a little bit of a thing. But I don't think it'll happen this year. Maybe next year.
Yeah, listen.
There are some cool coalitional orgs here though that sometimes pull things together for days like that, and that is really cool. I want to shout out in particular Mayday 505 is a coalitional org here that is really awesome, that brings together a lot of different orgs, a lot of different left-leaning orgs of different types. You know, everybody from like DSA to Afro socialists and anything in between, you know, are like the kinds of people that turn out for their events. We a few years ago we did a flag burning on 4th of July with them. It was super fun, great speakers, and it was actually we were all kind of nervous, but the cops never even came by, even though we were just out there having a good old time. Just took over a public park, burning flags, being crazy. But it wasn't that wild. It was pretty well organized too, honestly. And we had like medic tent stuff. You know what I mean? Like the orgs here are really good on things like that. So it was like,
I love it.
food, medic tent, like a lot of when they do these coalitional things, it's like they pull together that kind of stuff. So it's like there's childcare, there's food, there's everything that you need so that you can just come enjoy it. Because this relating back to like shit that we were talking about earlier, poor people need that if you're going to ask them to come to your event.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't just be like, yes,
The
poor person,
movement.
take
Come
time.
support the movement.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is a great thing. This is a great thing for, like, yeah, people are not going to just, like, give their free time because the movement told them to. You've got to have, like, some sort of incentive. You've got to have some sort of material contribution to, like, improving people's lives for the better and something that makes them feel happy to participate in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. We talk about all the time, like, oh, is this donation? Is this representative of us? Is this representative of our goals? But like, I know in DSA, we do a dinner that's like for labor unions, and they get a trophy, and there's speakers, and there's dinner at Pascal's, and that's fake. You know, I mean, all award shows are fake. Hopefully, we all understand award shows are fake. But like, let's keep that energy for everything. Like, a lot of these social conventions are fake. We have a really good relationship with the labor community because we like did that incentive to hold a special event. And we did something that wasn't just like some boring stuff, but was something that we thought they'd take a real genuine interest in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Do a fun event that people want to show up to and that benefits them.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about something that maybe a lot of people don't know about, which is that, and also I don't know that street medics are like this in every city.
Yeah.
But the street medics here, when they're at like a calm, like non-protest type event, like the one I'm describing,
A calm, non-protest event.
like when it's more like
Right.
organized and you just have like the medic tent there, you know, for your like thing that's like, it's not like a we're marching down the street type of, you know what I mean?
Right. It's
Right,
a
right,
less
right.
militant. I get you. What
Yeah.
you're saying.
When it's like when the street medics are at stuff that's less militant, that's a good way to put it. Here in my community, they check poor people out for their like regular problems on the down low, because poor people can't go see doctors sometimes.
That's good. Isn't that something the Panthers did? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, that kind of stuff's really important to folks. Like, if you're going to ask poor people to come out and you're offering them something like that, they turn out.
Give some food. Make with the food. Make with the gift cards. Make with the raffle. Unions do it all the time, and they're great at getting people to come to stuff because
And
they
do
make
shit
it.
like leave a book, take a book.
Yeah.
You know, like have a table where people can leave socialist literature, take socialist literature.
Yeah, I've seen those like free library kiosks in Little 5 Points. I don't know if I've seen them anywhere else, but DSA should maybe set those up or put some literature in those.
Well, you know, I think about that all the time because we talk a lot about like how do you reach the working class, and really like the most direct way to reach working class people in a major city is to post up at a bus station and hand stuff out. I mean, in terms of like what's going to do the numbers, probably just massive. Here, do you want to talk? Like?
But here, check this out. Do the little free library, and then there's one specific pocket that's always got literature in it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like That's basically the way that some of these, when I'm talking about like these leave a book, take a book programs, that's how these tables are always set up. You've got a pile of books where you, like I say, you can leave and take socialist literature and share that freely with folks. But also, everybody's pamphlets, every org that's there for that event, their pamphlets are also on that same table.
Right.
You know?
I would just say, yeah, in terms of like kiosking, BSA has done in the past, like MARTA canvases and stuff. I don't know whether they got the results that they wanted, but we're a different organization now than we were like 3 years ago. So I think just everybody is more developed, not just Atlanta, but just everybody nationwide. Put together some cool stuff and put it on a QR code and print the QR code on a card and hand it out to people and see what happens. Make a sticker, put it downtown. You know, there's lots of ways to be like in the streets.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the stuff that anarchists do just all the time. They just print buttons and stickers and throw them around everywhere.
Well, and it works. I mean, as someone who comes directly from the punk anarchist scene, like it recruited me and we recruited a lot of other people, and some of those people are doing radical stuff today. And I don't necessarily mean in like an extremist,
right?
But more so just like they're community gardening. They are doing mutual aid. They are helping people with housing justice issues. You know what I mean?
They are in the movement.
They're in the movement. They are in the struggle. They are they are in the streets with these people, you know, doing it. And that stuff's really important. So, you know, when we talk about envisioning ideal communities, it's like we don't have to just think about a utopian future. We can also do some things today. That's another part of all of this.
Right.
That's super sweet, super accurate, super true. You guys want to watch something? You guys want to talk more?
Let's watch it. Wrap maybe if there's nothing else like pressing. I don't know. But
all right, let's wrap it.
Kyle, did you have a topic? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have anything.
Let's make this a 5-minute thing that we'll end on.
Sure.
And we'll come back and we'll talk about it. It is about equity in public spaces, and it's kind of interesting. And it's a little before and after from New York. It might be kind of interesting. All right, here we go.
All right, let's check it out.
Yeah.
Century, and now we have a lot of analytics to make sure we are the best as public sector employees that outperform any private sector client on caring for our parks and public spaces. So let us do equity first. So when I came on board, there was a senator that felt the way we deal with equity was he was going to create a bill that was going to take money from the affluent conservancies and just give it to the underserved parks. And I was like, okay, Mayor, I don't think that's going to work. So he said, great, you have 6 months to come up with a plan. And the plan we came up with was called a framework for an equitable future. Let me put that in context with you. New York City did a great job over the past 2 decades of investing in parks. Close to $6 billion were invested in parks in New York City. We acquired over close to 1,100 acres, and we came up with this walk score. I know you work with TPLs, so you're probably familiar with this. And we want to make sure as many New Yorkers as possible was within a 10-minute walk to a park. New York City is 81.5%. We're trying to get to 85% by 2030. San Francisco is the only city with 100% walk score, and Washington, D.C. is closely gating on that 100%. But when I came commissioner, I said, you know, the walk score is great, but there's one problem. It shouldn't just be about proximity. It should be about quality, because I can walk to some of those parks with a 10-minute walk, and I would not let my child or grandchild play or step foot in that public space. So I knew that it wasn't just about proximity, although that's important. It was also about quality. And so for us, equity became the key word we wanted to pursue. And when I use the word equity, I don't like these long definitions. It means fairness. Are we fair about how we invest in our capital dollars? Are we being fair about how we maintain our parks? Are we being fair about how we hire our employees? And the answer to us was no, we weren't. And we had to do something about it. So we decided to take an equity-driven approach to find out how equitable have we been. I told you we spent close to $6 billion over 20 years. How many of our parks, all the 2,000,
received less than $250,000 over 20 years. And in the parks business, that's virtually nothing. And it turned out we had 215 parks within our system that seen little to no investment. Seniors, children, families, while they saw other parks getting redeveloped, theirs remained unchanged. 20 years, from kindergarten to college, no change whatsoever. And the mayor and I said, that's not fair, and we have to change it. So the mayor, to his credit, decided to put capital dollars where the money is, where his mouth is, and he decided to invest over $300 million to transform 67 parks. This is not a light touch. It's scrape it down to the dirt and rebuild an entire new park or playground for the 21st century. We did some minor improvements in the short term. It takes us about 3 years to design, procure, and build. And so we did things like painting sports courts, painting play equipment, planting a lot of shrubs and trees, just as a down payment until we can get the park done. And this was transformative. Again, these are spaces that have been neglected for 20 years, and I'll give you an example. So there it is. That's one of New York City parks. Doesn't it look fun? You want to go and roll around on the asphalt. I don't think you do stuff like this, but this is a Robert Moses era playground. It got kids off the street, and I played. You know, there's the baseball diamond, there's first base. And I have all the bruises to prove it, but this is what the public space was. And this is not one I would call a space that I would want to enjoy, but it's in a walk score. It's within a 10-minute walk, so it counts. But to me, it didn't measure up. So my question is this a park or a parking lot? I remember the council member and I were just looking for one blade of grass, just one. We couldn't find it. I'm gonna come back to this one later because this one was actually converted. This one's a little bit better because it has trees and a bench. You know, you can sit there, have a picnic. Maybe you want to propose to someone, you can get on your knee and just. This one also was on the walk score. And so we knew that this was not fair as they passed other neighborhoods and saw these incredible green and transformed spaces. This was what they called their local park. Then, I don't know if you have this, but in New York City, we have this sign: no adults except in the company of a child can go into that space. Yes, if you're an adult, you don't have a child, you will get a summons. Now, my alternative is that either we change this policy or I'd have to put a concession out of each one of these parks so you can rent a child so you can go in. This too was not fair, because if you think of our walk score, if you were 12 and under, you had access to all the parks in New York City. But if you were over 12 and you were a senior, you could not go into that park with a covered station and enjoy the nice greenery. And so we did change these signs citywide. They're gone. And that because I felt it was not fair. Once you understand equity, the implementation becomes easy. So what do? We decided to come up with a whole new design palette. We had a new precedent, adult fitness equipment. We have now these spray features if people can't get to a pool. We have so many places where children can go and to cool off. So that's now a good feature. In the wintertime, there's still nice play features that kids can play on. Summertime, they're activated where they can go there and cool off. We decided to use vibrant colors and get away from that dark asphalt, because these are now community centers, town centers, they're open spaces, but to make them vibrant and attractive where now people are smiling, they feel happy. In fact, if I didn't tell, well, I'll wait to that one later. When we went out to the community, they wanted to see.
Was that all you were going to show? Uh-oh.
Okay.
Brandyn, you're muted.
And after, I definitely wanted to, as they were getting into that part of the presentation, I wanted to skip us forward and actually let you visually see before public space, after public space. And if you live in my neck of the woods, you know what both of those kind of parks are like. And yeah, it's just super rad to see the improvement, and it kind of left me with a positive frame of reference to.
Yeah, obligatory fuck Robert Moses.
Let me tell you, that's a good way to end for the day. Screw that guy.
Yeah. I'll just say for the record that was really nice because, you know, when we were talking about public space, like good public spaces earlier, a lot of the best public spaces, you know, in my town are parks, and parks where things like farmers markets happen, and, you know, other kinds of fun events and concerts and, you know, things like that. But it's definitely not equal. I mean, you've got the whole spectrum of, you know, the parks where the rich people jog and you have the outdoor concerts, all the way down to the parks where, you know, the drug deals happen, and it's not fair. So that was very interesting.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody, let's get out of here. I want to go get some tacos.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get pizza. Like, I think best New York style pizza is like Junior's in Summerhill.
Come to Decatur, let me tell you. You're right. No, listen, he's right. I'm saying come to Decatur and pick me up, and let's go, and we'll go.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh.
All right. I'll now, if you want soul food, you do need to come to Decatur, and I'll pick you up. Go do that.
What is the place?
Oh God, I'll tell you out there. I will talk to you. Let's get out of here. I'll see you next week, everybody. Bye bye.